Hey, grace and peace, everybody. I'm not going to say. Hey, grace and peace, everybody. Let me turn this. Let me turn this down. I'm not going to say I'm gonna. I'm not going to be on long. I'm not going to deal a lot. Hold on. With this with this subject, but it's important, and it's already out here. I'm going to play fair use. I'm going to play two videos, and we're going to talk about science. When y'all start dealing with science, there's certain claims that are being made that can be proven. This is not like God talked to me last night in a dream and I just got to trust what you said. There's a science. And people are out here making claims. And we just want to know. That brother Divine Prospect was on the other day, and he was talking about he was trying to help Pastor Green. Shout out Pastor Green, Maury Green. And he started talking about scholarship, and he said this is how scholarship goes. Because somebody somebody question you. I notice a lot of times when y'all involved in this religion, y'all don't want to be questioned. But some things are already out there, and folk gonna get questioned. And that's how scholars. The church, it might be different. This Bible might be different. Now, when folk out here and folks say that they want the truth, we can't attempt to prove something and go outside of, especially when we start to, we're not talking mystical now. When we start talking about history, when we start talking about science, we can't make our own rules up. Nobody is beyond questioning when you make certain statements. I'm gonna play two videos, fair use, and then we're gonna just talk. In this community, a lot of Israelites that are in this community, y'all are different from the camps. The camps don't want science. The camps don't want DNA, but people are bringing DNA up and discussing some of that stuff. So we got to get into it. Before some things came up, and everything went left because people started getting questioned. And some things came up, looked suspect, and a lot of people caught feelings. People get feelings in this religion. I'm gonna bring up some comment sections. I'm gonna show y'all a whole bunch of stuff. We gotta be a thinking people. Y'all can follow this, y'all can follow whatever y'all want to, but whatever it is, be a thinking people. All right, let me play this fair use. Let me play this right here, and then we're gonna move.
The Jewish nation is perhaps one of the most well-known but misunderstood groups of people on the planet. I've talked about this long ago in the past, but it is certainly terribly confusing to many how the Jewish identity can be described as an ethnicity, religion, and a culture. Although you may have noticed that many people use the phrase Jewish race, or many people in the United States describe their race as Jewish. And even in the past, on my annual demographic census for my channel audience, I distinguished Jews from any other group of people on the planet. But does this actually make any sense? Is there a such thing as the Jewish race? I've discussed this before rather briefly, but Jewish people are not a typical ethnic group, nor are they a typical religious group, as Judaism is more of an ethno-religious community, meaning that those born in the tribe are generally de facto members for life, even if they renounce the prevailing beliefs or traditions, which may sound odd, but countless other larger communities do this as well, especially Muslims, Mormons, or Catholics, a large chunk of whom may not have stepped into a religious institution in years, or even their entire life, yet still identify with the...
Let me stop. Somebody's saying something about an echo. I see that in there.
label they were born into. Now, the term Semite, most well known in the term anti-Semitism, the discrimination against or hatred of Jewish people, is actually not tied only with Jews, as the term originally referred to a collection of Afro-Asiatic peoples inhabiting the Middle East, including Arabs, Assyrians, Socotrans, and even many groups in Ethiopia and Eritrea who migrated from southern Arabia thousands of years ago. And historically, this also included the Phoenicians, Babylonians, and Samaritans, who actually still do exist, by the way. I've done an entire video on the Austro-Asiatic peoples and how they relate to one another, and it is rather odd to think that people groups like the Jews, Assyrians, or Arabs are related to Ethiopians, Somalis, or even those from northern Nigeria. But in the video, I explained how the family spread to encompass such a vast geographic region, having been impacted by many groups around them. The oldest of the ancient Jewish kingdoms, Israel and Judah, were both located in the Levant in the southeast quadrant of the Mediterranean, and hence the original inhabitants would have initially been very similar to the surrounding Egyptians, Arabs, and Syrians in terms of genetics, although their customs and traditions would eventually make them very easily distinguishable. Some have argued that Judaism is de facto the world's oldest formalized religion, as before this, the vast majority of tribes on Earth simply passed down the fluid, pluralistic, animistic practices of nature worship and or ancestor veneration of their forefathers. And interestingly, one of the consequences of this was a sharp increase in the rates of endogamous marriages, meaning the vast majority of marriages were in group, quickly leading to a number of distinct genetic markers to be widespread among nearly the entire Jewish population due to genetic drift and isolation. The Jewish people were downtrodden by the Egyptians and Syrians, but by far the biggest impact on the Jewish nation was the conquest of the Romans, with the Jews being very resistant to the imposition of Roman laws and customs over that of the traditional Jewish religious laws, creating a series of revolts and rebellions. This led to the sacking of Jerusalem by the Romans, scattering the Jewish people, and the Roman province was renamed from Judea to Palestine after the neighboring Philistine tribe, with the Romans hoping that this would quickly extinguish the problem-causing Jewish nation from existence once and for all. The situation is extremely complicated by this diaspora event, which saw the expulsion of this formerly highly centralized endogamous ethno-religious community. So even though they saw a synthesis with many different cultures around the world, they still retain their original base. The bulk of Jews in the diaspora went to Europe, which is how they came to be the largest and most well-known group, but there were many other branches that went as far as China, India, Ethiopia, with certain tales even suggesting that some made it even further than that. When arriving in these different lands, such as Persia, Spain, Italy, or Morocco, there were moderate amounts of intermixing with the native peoples, with an especially high number of female converts marrying into the nation early on. But gradually, they formed into tight-knit, exclusive communities that generally only married among themselves, and this is even more true after the spread of Christianity and Islam. So keep in mind, although the quintessential Abrahamic faith, Judaism, did not spread in the same manner as the other two major religions, which is why you have two Christians from Armenia and Portugal, or two Muslims from Senegal and Pakistan, who wouldn't really have all too much in common. The Jews, even though those from highly disparate groups, generally have a much higher sense of community and camaraderie, and a lot of this has to do with the uniquely harsh nature of persecution and danger faced by the people worldwide throughout most of their history. There are many, many different Jewish ethnic clusters across the world, some of which I've discussed in the past, but the main three are the Ashkenazim, named after a biblical Jewish kingdom, who were mostly located in northern and eastern Europe as the result of countless expulsions and pogroms leading to a migration further into the heartland of Europe. The Sephardim, named after Spain, who were mostly located in Iberia. However, following the Inquisition, the bulk either converted to Catholicism, fled to North Africa or other parts of Europe, or fled to the New World, where the vast majority intermarried with the Latino population. And because of this, a significant proportion, some would estimate in the tens of millions of Latinos, have some significant degree of Sephardi Jewish heritage, as I discussed in an earlier video. And the last of the big three are the Mizrahim, meaning Easterners, referring to the Jewish community of the Middle East, such as in Persia, Arabia, and Egypt. So whenever someone talks about a Spanish Jew or a German Jew or Iraqi Jew, you can generally distinguish which larger community they are a part of, which has a large impact on their genetics and culture, even if they live in different countries or speak different languages. One of the genetic links that binds all of these Jewish peoples together is their paternal haplogroups, which, as I've discussed many times, although not perfect, is generally a pretty good indicator of shared heritage, and genetic studies on European, Middle Eastern, and North African Jews has shown that most share the same haplogroups originating in the Near East, including J1, J2, T, and E1B1, all typical of other Semitic populations. Others in the worldwide interconnected web of Jewish descendants include the Beta Israel, or Jews from Ethiopia, who are indeed genetically distinct from the surrounding Horn African population, although their actual Semitic Jewish ancestry in terms of DNA is much smaller than many other groups, and their paternal haplogroup distribution is also highly disparate when compared to the Ashkenazi, Sephardi, or Mizrahi, which points to an actual case of mass conversion to Judaism by a small founding population with limited genetic input from the Middle East. Horn Africans as a whole, however, are still related to Jews genetically through the migration of ancient and more recent Western Asian peoples, albeit with a Northeast African or Nilo-Saharan base related to the peoples of Sudan and East Africa. Other smallish Jewish populations around the globe include the Koshin Jews in the southern Indian state of Kerala, again a highly admixed population that by appearance alone certainly wouldn't stand out too much from the general Indian population. And similarly, there's a small Jewish community in Kaifeng in China that are partially descended from Persian Jews from centuries prior, and due to this, they have largely assimilated into the local population, both from a genetic, linguistic, and cultural perspective, although there has been a bit of a cultural revival in recent years. Lastly, there is a moderately sized group in South Central Africa, mostly in Zimbabwe and South Africa, known as the Lemba, who by and large would appear indistinguishable from the other native Bantus of the region. However, they claim an ancient connection to the Middle East, similar to the Swahili. Genetic studies in recent years have shown a large degree of ancestry from the Middle East when compared to the surrounding Bantu populations, but whether this is specifically from the Jewish diaspora or from early Arab traders is currently unknown. And many Lemba have unofficially claimed Jewish status, although few have actually emigrated to the modern state of Israel. Speaking of which, Israel is unique in having essentially united a wildly diverse diaspora from all around the world, with the Jewish population of Israel coming from Germany, the USSR, Romania, Poland, Turkey, Iran, the Maghreb, Arab countries, Latin America, and has even attracted some from the United States, which has resulted in a religiously unified nation. However, in terms of ancestral, linguistic, and cultural background, is extremely diverse. There's a reason that Israel is often regarded as the USA of the Middle East, and it isn't just due to the external socio-political policies, but rather the diverse nature of settlement in the country. I actually find the situation in Israel to be quite intriguing, as the eccentric pattern of migration and intermixing in the modern state has resulted in a rather unconventional situation for the region, with the bulk of Israeli Jews being native born and a very high percentage, around 20 to 40%, having a mixed ancestry when it comes to the ethno-geographical origins of their Jewish ancestors, with Ashkenazi, Sephardi, and Mizrahi having extremely high rates of intermarriage, although the Beta Israel, Cochin Jews, and other more disparate groups still have a hard time in finding belonging and acceptance among the general population. In total, what we're seeing in modern Israel among the Jewish population is a fusion of these different groups, which will definitely have an interesting outcome in the future, with Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews having around 20 to 40% Semitic Jewish DNA, making many nearly identical to other European populations, while the Mizrahi have a much higher percentage, especially those around the Levant. Keep in mind, most of the surrounding Arab populations do have a bit of genetic divergence due to migrations from the Arabian Peninsula following the Islamic expansion of the 6th and 7th centuries, as well as the trans-Saharan slave trade, with the majority of Egyptians, Palestinians, Jordanians, and Lebanese Muslims having significant sub-Saharan African DNA from historic intermixing. So most Jews, especially the Ashkenazi, represent their own unique genetic cluster somewhere in between that of Southern Europeans and Southwest Asians due to their endogamy and early cases of intermixing, although other Jewish groups may be more closely related to the surrounding populations. So to claim that there is an all-encompassing Jewish race is inaccurate, but there is a very obvious substratum or genetic base among most of the peoples of the Jewish diaspora, which explains the socio-political, cultural, genetic, and phenotypic similarities between them. So in conclusion, the Jewish nation is one of the most interesting on the planet, even though the modern state of Israel and its future is such a controversial subject. And despite being separated by generations, close gene pools, and genetic drift, there are many connections to many different civilizations across the planet, making them, ironically, a very centralized yet dispersed group of people with one of the most interesting histories. So go ahead and let me know your thoughts about Jewish
I'm gonna put the link in the comment section. Fair use. G-Con, I'm gonna put the link in the comment section. I'm gonna play something. I'm gonna show y'all something, and then I'm gonna say something. Y'all know that whole Richard Katz thing came up, and I was at a different time, so I was willing to put some bread up. I was willing to put some bread up to not even the Richard Katz, the whole pew that started behind the pews in Georgia, and I was willing to put some bread up. I'm not in that place right now, but I'm telling y'all right now, Israel, y'all need to put some bread up. Y'all need to no Israelite scholar, no Christian scholar. Y'all need a scholar dealing with this DNA. Y'all need a scientist that write peer-reviewed articles that's recognized in the scientific community to explain some things. Both sides can't be right with what's being said. Somebody is not right. Not that somebody's a devil, not that somebody's a liar. Something is not right with this. Berean is the devil. Berean is the devil because he wants some questions answered. People need some questions. Most of y'all in here blind followers. Y'all just gonna follow or y'all just want to believe. Confirmation bias. What's confirmation bias? Some of y'all just want to believe. All right, you said he got a video. I'll pull that video up, but there's something else that needs to come up, and I'm getting ready to play that right now. I'm gonna mute myself. G-Con, I put that thing in there. Let me see this one right here. We gotta talk. Because it's already out here. Ain't nobody being no devil. It's already out here. I think people get confused. You get out here and you make public statements. Once you get online and you get to making some public statements, they can be challenged. They can be questioned. And you want some Jim Jones, you want some cult stuff if you don't want to be questioned, period. You come start talking about scholar and we can't find a scholar, it's a problem, period. I know. Yeah, I know. The cults don't like that. Jim Jones and them don't like that. Waco, Texas, they just want, my leader said. But scholarship moves on when people can gather and get their information and other people can look at it. That's what peer-reviewed papers are. People on that same level that know what they're talking about, they're looking at things and say, listen, this is a good argument this brother's bringing forth. This is a decent argument this brother's bringing forth. Let me play this video. Right here. Fair use.
Okay, so how about instead of you being offended, you recognize that when you answered the question, you didn't give a clear answer that was specific.
No, you didn't ask the question. Hold on. Right, bro. I want the audience to say, did we answer him incorrectly? It was a simple question, and we answered him. Yes or no?
The beautiful thing is,
audience, yes or no?
This is all recorded. So if I'm right or you're wrong, this can be recapped.
Well, no, I want the audience to vote. He simply asked us when we're talking about haplogroup, are we talking about sex chromosomes? And we said, of course. That was the answer.
Okay.
Did we say anything else?
Okay. Someone from the audience, you are more than welcome to come up and clarify this. I'm going to drop the link.
All we need is a 1 or a 2. We ain't got to come on the panel, but you can if you want. You can, but yeah, 1 or 2. It's a simple question. This guy out here saying we crying. We ain't crying. Well, you tripping, man. When you see me crying, gonna be the last day you here.
It's gonna be the last day you ever see me crying.
I mean, the bottom line, family, that was a bad question, and that's as simple as that.
It's a bad question to get a baseline understanding on something.
You invited us to talk about haplogroups. If you think we're ignorant enough not to understand we're talking about sex chromosomes, then why you invited us on here?
Thank you. So just to be clear, you're on here saying that F comes out of E, and that's not how haplogroups work.
I didn't say. I said how the clades are assigned. Go back to the fucking shit at the beginning.
How the consortium.
Stop lying on us. You doing
well.
You gonna control yourself like a man, my G.
Look, how the consortium makes a decision. That's what was said. Now you're up here twisting things because you're feeling a little funny because you asked a silly question. You asked a silly question. You feel a certain way. You shouldn't have asked that question because it was disrespectful. You know it was.
Hey, check this out. I don't feel.
You know it was. You do,
bro. You gonna let me talk on my channel?
Go ahead. Go ahead. You could mute me.
No, I'm not gonna mute you. I'm gonna let you know you're gonna let me talk on my channel. Respect.
Go ahead.
What up, sister? How you doing?
Greetings, sister. Salam.
So real quick. So tell you, are you saying that F comes out of E? Yes or no?
We said how the consortium makes assignments.
This is a yes/no question. This is a yes/no question.
Don't play games. We said how the consortium makes it. We explained what we did. This is not a yes/no question.
It's exactly what it is.
No, it's not. Because we already gave you an answer how the consortium makes a decision. That's the point being made, and that's the point we gave.
So the information you gave was incorrect. Do you understand that or no?
It's not. Prove it.
It's on the screen. It's been on the screen for the last 20 minutes.
Prove it.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
What's the ancestor of F on the screen?
We didn't say that. We said how the consortium makes an assignment. You're not listening, or you're trying to play games.
Okay.
We told you how the consortium assigns those letters.
What's the haplogroup?
You are playing games.
What's the haplogroup relation to F and E? Do they come out of the same paragroup? Yes or no?
I told you how the assignment's made. That was the point.
Can you answer the question or no?
I'm not going to play games with you. I gave you an answer.
So you're refusing to answer questions, but you came on to answer questions.
Because we answered it, and you're acting like
you're not answering the question. Do you understand that, right? I'm asking you a yes/no question, and I'm not going to answer it.
I answered the question.
Okay, so was it a yes or was it a no?
I answered the question.
So does F come out of E or no?
Did you not ask that question? And my brother gave you an answer like 20 minutes ago.
And he said it was F. He said yes. He said yes.
Look, this guy is acting like a boo. He put words in our mouth that we didn't even say. We told you how the consortium makes his decision.
So if you didn't say it,
you are playing games. Yes no? I gave you my answer.
Is it yes or no? Help me understand.
I didn't. Look,
do you even understand?
Hold on. The issue was how the letters are assigned. That was.
I'm sorry. I want to ask y'all a question too. When people running around, Abu, that the whole thing with the pews, language and Professor Katz and everything. Abu just brought some questions up. Does that make Abu the devil? Is Abu the devil trying to stop the awakening? That's a question I'm asking y'all. Type of 1, if Abu is the devil trying to stop the awakening. Type of 1. Type of 2, if he's just someone that's involved in this community too, because when I say Abu, y'all know who he is. So he's in this community that's just trying to move the conversation along. Y'all heard a question. Is Abu a devil trying to stop the awakening? Is he the Illuminati? Is he a Jesuit trying to stop the awakening that just hate Israel? Type of 1.
Was the issue
how are the letters assigned, bro?
I told you the consortium makes a decision. Once the mutation is so large, they reassign these large mutations to another letter.
Got you. So
that was the answer, dude.
So simple question. So
that was the answer.
Are you saying, real quick, bro? Are you saying that E had so many mutations that it eventually turned into F?
I say the subclade of V had mutations that were so large that they assigned to a new letter.
Which was?
I'm not in the consortium. I told you how they do an assignment.
So you said, and your brother said it was F. Are you now you said it was F or no?
You get my brother back on here. Let him answer you.
Let him jump back on. He jumped off.
You feeling funny about that sex question, aren't you?
Hey,
not at all.
Hey y'all, time out. This is it. Now, understand everybody has their own belief system when it comes to DNA. But what I will say, y'all, we are still a community. And the way all of us are going back and forth right now, people are watching us. Y'all know that all of us have our own different viewpoints. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I understand we all have our different viewpoints, but I think right now the way that we're doing this is not good for the community. I'm watching the people in the chat.
Look, Sister E, we out, okay? But this guy is gaslighting us, and he's trying to set us up. We answered his question, and he wants to play games because he asked a dumb question. Everybody knows he asked a dumb question, and he's feeling some kind of way.
Okay, y'all, come on now. And I understand. I just caught the tail end of this. When I caught it, I said, wait, hold on, we're arguing. This is not what we need to do as a community. I will say this much. We do not need to do this as a community on a platform where others are watching. I don't agree with everything everybody says, and that's fine. But people are watching right now. We just recently had a conversation a couple of months ago about all of us coming together. And here it is, we're all on a live arguing with each other. How do you think other people see this? Everybody on this panel is a leader. I would consider to be a leader in our community. And now the leaders are arguing.
So, sis, real quick, sis, did I ask an unreasonable question or no?
More. Give me a second, sweetie. Give me a second. Let me say this. Now, we can have these type of intellectual conversations, but now it's getting bad. And I would say we need to stop and have a private conversation, because publicly doing this is not good for the community. Tayo and them know that I am an advocate of that, to say we will not slander each other and attack each other in front of everybody. And I don't think we need to do this.
Did I slander Tayo Kobe?
I'm not answering any questions. It's getting ugly up here, though. It's getting ugly, and we got to get to a place.
Okay. So real quick, sis, if you're not going to answer questions, let me talk to you then. So just so we're clear, I reached out to Tayo Kobe, and they didn't want to do. They came on there saying we should have done this in the emails. Well, I reached out to y'all on the post that y'all tagged me in and asked for the conversation. I got nothing back, right? Then I started getting tagged in Facebook posts in public, right? Nothing back, right? I make the video saying we need to have a good, clean conversation for the public so they understand what's being said. No one's getting mischaracterized, and no one's getting no ad hominems. I brought them up here so they could get clarity. They could give clarity on where they were saying that their position was being mischaracterized.
Well, first and foremost,
hold on real quick. In every situation, what? Go ahead.
I said emotions right now emotions are way too high to even have this type of conversation. I think it needs to allow.
We keep hold on, sis. We keep running to the same situation though. So like Pastor Kelly Benai didn't want to talk behind closed doors. Tayo Kobe don't want to talk behind closed doors. So what do you do then? Not have the conversation, but let people talk crazy in the public? No, we got to bring this together and have a calm conversation as adults.
Also, this has been live.
So, hey, sis, if we're not gonna have peace in public, then we can't talk about none of this stuff in public. You feel what I'm saying?
We need to have peace in public. If it means that y'all
okay, so if we're not gonna talk in private, right?
More quick question. Y'all don't ever have a problem by pulling me and say, "E, can we pull this together?" If y'all would have reached out to me, I would have pulled it together. Y'all know I don't have a problem about doing stuff like this.
So Tayo got at me and said, "Let's do the live." So he didn't get at me. He didn't get at me. Facebook said, "Okay, let's not do live. Let's talk." He said, "Let's do the live." So
why?
So hold on, sis. You're jumping on an hour. Hold on, sis. You're jumping on an hour after the conversation started. We weren't bickering for a whole hour, sis, and there was no bickering. What happened was a simple question got asked, and there was no answers given. And that's what consistently happens in situations where people where they do want to gaslight. So, but no one's above getting a question asked. I put myself out there all the time to answer questions.
And I understand your point more, and I'm not taking sides. I understand your point. Nobody is.
He said nobody's above having a question asked or asking questions. In this religion, a lot of folk just want to believe. We might as well just call it for what it is. A lot of folk just want to believe, and it's just easier to talk without anything being challenged. Go ahead, Ron. Before I play the rest of this, you want to say something on that? Or maybe the earlier video?
Yeah,
the other video. Go ahead.
It's exactly what I've been saying. How these Jews were kicked out of the land. They couldn't take their wives with them, or they were separated from their families, and they took on women that was native to the land, or men that was native to that land. And so this is how you can have different haplogroups within the Jews, and so Jews, that's why it's not considered to be something that is more so ethnic because of that reason alone. So you have to have what you call Judaism or Jew religion, you know what I'm saying, or strict Jew religion, even though there's different forms of it. But it's never to the point to where it's like, well, this is defined by a color. Because if you look at the Ashkenazi Jews, they said exactly what I said. And I've never seen this video day in my life, but it makes sense to deal more so with the Sephardic and the Ashkenazis. Why? Because they're related to the Europe. And so it's just like that when Ezra and Nehemiah was in Babylon, Nehemiah basically was related to not related to the king, but was up under the king. So therefore, he can make plans for the Jews that was back home where in Israel. So it's the same thing. It's no different when you look at the Old Testament. So I think that was a great video to explain to the people that you can't say that everybody is not an Israelite because they're not black, because these people has been dispersed. And if they've been dispersed, and they're going to look like many of the nations they've been dispersed to, because we know that's just how biology works, the admixture. And so I think that's a great video. And as far as this video that's coming out right now, I received a inbox, and on the inbox with this pertaining to Orthodox Moor. He says Abu is a whole autosomal Ethiopian Jew out here running amok. And then he posts his haplogroup, paternal side.
Abu?
That's what Witchcraft said. That's what
Moore.
Orthodox Moor said. He says Abu is a whole autosomal Ethiopian Jew out here running amok. And he posts his haplogroup, which is RM269, and then he has the Ethiopian Jew. So then it has then Yacoba comes back and he says Moore. He speaks back to Moore, and his post responds to his post, and he says more like an Esau running amok. So Yacoba calls him Esau. That's what he calls Abu. So then Moore says, how would you determine that autosomally when Abu is closer to Ethiopian Jews and Jed match than people like Pastor Richard Kelly or Kelly Richardson? Then Abu says, Yacoba says, yet Kelly is closer to Limba. Just because you have some Ethiopian Jews lineage does not make you Israel. I told you all that Abu's goal is to be Israel, and you all that hold his hand are complicit in his duplicity. The Bible defines an Israelite, period. Also, you do not know if some Ethiopian Jews are Esau or not. So she said
read Abu post in the comment from this video right here. Type of 1 if that's what you mean. You got you looking at you in the comment section?
No, I was looking at it was sent to me about the comment section. I was sent
okay. Hold on. All right, give me a second. Type of 1. I know y'all a couple of seconds behind. All right, hold on a minute.
Is above being questioned. Nobody. Everybody should get a place where if you have a question, it should be addressed.
All right, now.
I hardly agree with you. My concern is this. Right now, emotions are high.
Okay, we're too grown for that, fam.
Yeah, but sis, you speak to us all the time on different platforms. And you know we're not about destroying or bringing down Israel, but you know when it comes to having discussions about certain topics, and people are having discussions. Say, I'm sorry, it's noise behind me. Give me a second.
Can I say something, Orthodox more?
You got it, fam. Go ahead.
On the private tip, we've already reached out to those brothers to do a private clubhouse with just the people that were involved in the conversation that happened on Berean. Those brothers denied.
Facts.
They didn't want to talk.
100% facts.
But here's my thing. We want to deal with stuff behind closed doors, but the issue not behind closed doors. The issue has already been made public. These brothers have already came out and said we're following faulty science. Our methodology is not right. It's not correct. Yada, yada, yada. That was done publicly. No one came to the table and said, let's get Sister E, let's get everybody and make sure we all on the same page with this. No one says that. So why can't it be dealt with in a public platform? And I don't see anything that Orthodox Moore did anything wrong. He did not antagonize these brothers. He did not gaslight these brothers.
One second, Yeshua. Let me make something very, very clear. I never said Moore was wrong. Let me make that clear. I never said Moore was wrong. And I'm going to say it one more time. Moore was not wrong. My point with this is, one, I did not know that anybody was saying that y'all's points were faulty. But what I will say is, regardless of what's going on, people are watching us. And we have to be very careful in the things that we do in the public. And that's to everybody on here. Do y'all realize how many people I may have beef with in our community? But you know what I do? I would rather for us to settle it behind closed doors. People are watching us.
Yes, they are. And that's why we got to have these conversations. Hold on, real quick. That's why we do have to have these conversations, because we have secret scholars coming out. We have people putting out methodology that can't be challenged because there's special people asking for special pleading. We can't have that in the community. So ain't no one above reproach in this thing. So if we're going to put something, hold on real quick. If we're going to put, if me and Yeshua and other people are going to be told that we're making DNA our religion and being insulted, etc., for asking a question, okay, we got to slow this thing down. We got to again, I was not being insulting, antagonizing, none of that. So if asking a question makes you offended, fam, you need to get off the public platforms talking. What are you talking about? A question makes you offended?
Not only that, but we will go hard after anybody in Israel, whether it be camps or anybody who put out false doctrine. And we'll do it live. We'll do it live. We'll do it in public. We'll do it. Christian apologists is watching. Listen, Sister E, listen. You know we respect you and we love you, sis. We love you. You know that. But what we're saying is that this is on the table now, and it has to be dealt with. Whether it's Ron Dalton, who we already addressed with his flawed model, and now this. Nobody's being disrespectful. We think that Teo and them brothers is kicked. Them brothers has done kingdom work. They got 100,000 followers. These brothers are really well known in the community. They have brought thousands of people into the walk, this walk.
Facts.
But when we discover something just like they do, when they discover something that is not right and exact, they address it. And so we're addressing something, and we want to have a private conversation, but it doesn't happen. We did the same thing with Ron Dalton. We wanted to have a private conversation, and they didn't. We gave that not platform, but we gave that opportunity. Yes, we gave that opportunity. And nobody's till today, these brothers have put down so much prophecy work that is undeniable. Nobody's doubting that. Undeniable. But this has to be dealt with.
Right. So real quick, I'm also in a situation where I'm getting tagged and posting that I'm getting called out for clout chasing. Like I want to be part of the conversation or whatnot, right? So I sat through the whole Richard Katz thing, and that was horrible for our community, sis. I'm not doing that again. We all wore egg on our face for that one, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not letting hold on real quick. So I'm not letting people run amok in the public anymore and act like no, it's not going to get checked. It's funny to get checks. And again, we're telling you, real quick, and we're telling you, it was Berkeley to start off with. There's no beef here. Again, I got no issue with anything. If they can say haplogroups are bunk, that's not an issue. It's not an emotional concept. You don't have to agree with what I believe, etc. What the people need is a clear conversation to where what's being stated is clear, what people believe is clear, so no one's getting mischaracterized. So if
anything he's saying so far is anything he's saying so far wrong, I gotta mute myself. I think it'll stop the echo. I'm gonna put it back on and you tell me.
Now more is correct. More is correct and sort of, you know, they kind of correct, because if you look at it, well, I think that Sister E is kind of messing stuff up with the conversations at hand, because really they was getting somewhere, and now they can't get nowhere because she thinking that it's this. But if anybody is getting offended by a question, we need to question that. You know what I'm saying? Because Richard
y'all type of one if y'all hear us echoing it, or is it just the video? I think I have to mute myself. Keep going.
Yeah, it's just a video.
Okay, go ahead. You keep going.
Richard Katz need to that popped up. That need to be addressed. So to me personally,
they ain't finna address that. They ain't finna address that, and more know like sensible folk know that wasn't right and exact. Folk running around here, the dumb, deaf, and blind think that's settled. The dumb, deaf, and blind think everything is okay. That wasn't okay. And he know that wasn't okay. Thinking folk know that wasn't okay. But all right, folk that moved on past that. But how can something like that be avoided? It won't happen again, or can't happen again. Go ahead.
Right, and that's the thing. Can they be trusted with information? Because like for instance, like they looked at my Jed match, right? And in my Jed match, they seen Limba, an Ethiopian Jew, right? So they start loud, but what they don't know is I'm connected to Limba and Ethiopian Jews maternally. You know what I'm saying, through autosomal DNA. Why? Because on part of the side of the maternal side, of the Limbas and Ethiopian Jews come up out of the Bantu expansion. So that's why you got to be careful when you saying, well, this is who I am. But at the same time, DNA doesn't determine, like Koba said, he said it right there in that what I just read. It can't determine really if you're a Jew or if you're an Israelite, because even with that J1C3 marker, that marker that we see of the Cohen marker, there's Arabs that have that. I'm saying,
somebody said you showed your results. We saw it. I know they was. I didn't see it, but they were talking about you put where you put it. Go to that biblical rumble room in the comment section. My sister just sent it to me in that comment section on a Boo post. He said, "I think a Boo." Oh no, this is a Boo post. Go to that biblical rumble room and look at that thing when they all back and forth talking. But you posted your thing.
Yeah. And when I posted mine, because they've been dumbed down by Yakova, by Kelly Richardson or Richard Kelly, whatever his name is, and by these other brothers, Richard Katz and all of them, the make-believe Richard, the sock puppet. They've been dumbed down by them to where they don't understand. It's like you got a group of black people. Then you got Yashob in here. You got Yashob and Sean Harris. What they do when it comes to haplogroups is ignorant. I have never seen like nobody do what they do. Like they make a whole Africa just Israelites. That is crazy. I'm saying that makes no sense, to where the E haplogroup is just all Israel. It's just I've never seen that before. So there's a problem with that. Then they'll say
now why you say it's a problem. That's a Israelite Christian everybody come up in there a Facebook group. It's a group on Facebook, Biblical Rumble Room.
Yeah, Biblical Rumble Room. That's a good room. So you guys go there to Biblical Rumble Room and join. You know what I'm saying? It's a nice little room we be in. You know what I'm saying? Good little following.
Now, why is this thing a problem? Because if you evangelizing and you using DNA and you trying to use that DNA to prove that almost everybody got off them slave ships are Israelites, that's an evangelistic tool. That's what I'm saying. These things are evangelistic tools if people are using them. Now, if you're using science and you're using science wrong to evangelize, that could be a problem. To sway people, you ain't Ham, you ain't African, you Israel, and then you get into Israelite doctrine or whatever. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think what can happen is it can be used for migrational patterns, if anything. health reasons. And so what that's saying is this is, if you got Jews all over the world, right, and they far apart from each other, but genetically they're kind of close to each other. You see, like they're close to each other. They have traditions. They also have linguistically speaking, there's some things that's there. And then
Look
you
at
can
the
see
screen. You're in the crib, right?
Yeah, I'm at the house.
Look at the screen.
E is Semitic, and also E is Afro-Semitic. And see, that's the problem, because if you look at E, right, E, just because you have an E haplogroup don't make you, like they'll say, biblically come from Shem. That doesn't make any sense.
Look at the screen now.
He says E haplogroups are Abraham family line. See, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I'm gonna tell you why. Because what they're doing is they're trying to take the things that are we trying to mix scientific things that we see, which predates Abraham, predates them, like these haplogroups that spread out. Then you try to mix it in with the biblical things, but it wouldn't make any sense. And I'm gonna tell you why now. Because if you look at E, right, let's say for we use the biblical model to line it up more so with what scientists are saying for us pertaining to haplogroup E, it will fit Ham and his sons, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because Ham is the one who actually according to Josephus, he spread it to. He was in the Levant area. He was also in Arabia. He was in Babylon. He was Far East. You got Hindu Kush. He was in the Near East, and he's Far East, and he's also in Africa. So you got this E marker in the subclass. Majority of him, what they call in the Bible, Josephus says the land of Ham was Africa. So if the land of Ham is Africa, and then you have all these E subclasses in Africa, it's safe to say that this marker that we see is more Hamitic, if anything. And so the problem is when you see people that are in areas that we know that are in areas of, so Ham is actually Semitic, and he's also Hamitic, and whether he's Afro, in other words, he's Afro-Asiatic, basically. Reason why, because his descendants can have haplogroups of Ham and haplogroups of Shem, and that's because the admixture. So some of the women that are there are taking on fathers that we see that would have come from the children of Shem, or either the children of Ham, and even Japheth. And so
hold on a minute. I'm sorry. Somebody said Israelites didn't care about DNA to begin with. Who brought the whole DNA? Who brought the DNA thing to the table in the community then?
Well, the reason why I think more so I would say the apologist community probably did at this point. And the reason why is because we want to see the migrations. Because if you're saying you're an Israelite, right, then you should have migrations that we see, and we want to see, well, where do you come from? Who is your people? You know what I'm saying? Who are you have a high percentage more of, if anything, who you genetically related to? And it seems to be to where brothers was out here saying they R1B, but they have 90% sub-Saharan African in them. What that means is that your grandfather R1B possibly could be a European, and he started to admix with black people, and from there on, it stayed with that, mixing with black people. His children mixed with black people.
Somebody said DNA was brought to the table because it was a goalpost move.
That's possible, and because whenever you're doing apologetics, you always trying to find a way, basically, to where you can move off into a type of science, or if we already smashed them already biblically already when it comes to certain things that they putting out. So of course, to where people begin to get broader in their science and get broader into more studies in history, they're going to outstretch and pull up information to dispute. And so that's when the Hebrew Israelites got involved and said, well, we're going to dispute that. And they made some great claims. Now, I wouldn't tell you that, genetically speaking, that you can't have black people of America did our Jews. I will never tell you that because you can. There was some of them on the ships.
Okay. But the beef is when, so your only beef is when they trying to make everybody coming off of all the whole history of the slave trade was only Israel. Africans, Hamites knew who the Israelites were, and they started selling the Israelites to the white slave master. And no Hamites came over here. It was Hamites that knew and distinguished who Israel was and sold all of Israel. All the whole history of the slave trade was Hamites selling Israelites to the white man to bring to Spain, Portugal, and Americas, West Indies, and all of that stuff, right?
Right.
That's your beef. That's your beef.
That's my beef. Like you got the brother in here. He says, G-Con, there is no genetic evidence of haplogroup E being in sub-Saharan Africa until 1,000 BCE. E is not indigenous to sub-Saharan Africa, and that's just false. Because if you go back, we can actually find the E been there before. Notice he says 1,000 BCE. Well, what about Abraham now? You know, was Abraham
was in 1995 BCE?
Yeah. So are you saying that if you saying that he's in Africa? I mean, he's already he went to Egypt. So why are you saying there's no evidence if you say he's E? See, it's this type of stuff that you look at and say, dang. Like, do you see you just made like a great error? Because Abraham is like 22 to 1800 BCE. But you just telling these people right here, there is no evidence of haplogroup E being in sub-Saharan Africa until 1,000 BCE. Whoa. That's during the time of when Solomon now and David now.
Yeah, the temple. Yeah. That's the way. That's fairly recent. That's only 1,000 years for Jesus in them.
Yeah,
and
they don't realize. And they don't realize that they make these type of mistakes, and it's just real ignorant. And you listen to it, and then they'll lie, just to. And that's why I like about Orthodox Moors, because at least he gonna come and he's gonna start seeing stuff, and he's gonna start looking and saying, "Well, hold on for a minute. I gotta be honest if I'm gonna keep it honest." And so they don't like that. That's why. And Sister E came in, she know already he was finna get off into them, and she tried to push him away. Basically, oh, this and that, you doing this and that. No. He's revealing them and showing that there's a problem, sir. Just like even when you look at Albert Einstein, even though he's E1B1, doesn't make him to be an Israelite descendant. Just because he's a Jew, don't mean you're an Israelite descendant. It just means you a Jew. A Jew is not an ethnicity. And so when you start saying that Jew is an ethnicity, in which the more Europeans are trying to prove now, then now there can't not be any anti-Semitism. That has to go away, because now we know the Jew is a race of people now. So there is no anti-Semitism that's going on now. You can't claim it. And that's what most Europeans are trying to push now, that Jews are a race of people, genetically speaking. But to be a Jew doesn't mean that you're genetically well, how can you say you're ethnicity? It doesn't mean just because we see that a person can become a Jew during the time of, what was that, Esther?
Yeah, and when you go just convert, and your DNA ain't say nothing but you in the nation. You do agree that some scientists, these folk need to get some scientists. Somebody need to put some bread up. Somebody need to put some bread up and get some scientists. Not no. I'm talking about scientists that ain't got nothing to do with nothing. That don't have nothing to do with nothing, and bring them and just start explaining it to the people. To give a scientist or two scientists to come on and explain the $500 a piece, that should be no big thing. I think that the subject is out there now, that is good, because this can help y'all. Because like I said, them camps ain't dealing with it too much, but I think this could be a good thing. Especially if y'all say the UA community brought up the whole DNA thing, that'll smash that, and that can definitely be used as just an addition to what y'all believe the Bible's saying, fitting the prophecies and everything. Just an addition, not saying that it's over the Bible and then everything, but clearly we need some. Everybody, both of the brothers can't be right. Both of the groups can't be right. Somebody is wrong on the subject, and this is where the professionals come in, and I think that's important right there. Hold on, G. Hold on. Let me let them hear the rest of this.
If I ask a question trying to clarify your position on something and you get offended, hey, fam, you're wasting your opportunity to make sure that what you're saying is clear for the people. It ain't got nothing to do with me.
I think with them is when you. I think it was an insult and from them, from their standpoint. And I think let me jump on your side for a minute. I think.
Hold on, wait a minute. Oh, somebody just said, why, Berean, where are the UA scholars? There's people in the community that have higher degrees in this Bible. Even Divine Prospect, when he was on, he ain't quote Hebrew Israelite scholars. He quoted 3 Christian textual critics. That's who he quoted. People that got 10, 20, 30, 40 years in the field of dealing with biblical manuscripts. He ain't gonna quote no Hebrew Israelite scholars that deal with the language and deal with the manuscripts and been traveling in private museums and public museums and dealing with the language, teaching the language on a professional level. No, he didn't. He went to a Christian. So Christians, there are scholars in the field, but I'm saying you don't need, I'm not saying get an Israelite scholar or a Christian scholar, get a scientist. If y'all are talking scientific. Now, the whole thing that'll get some people upset, people that have been freed from jail messing with DNA, so DNA is something. I know it's not above the word of God, but DNA is something. If this is important and it's already something out there in the community and y'all think it's something that's splitting the community or some type of beef, it's good to bring them out based on things that have happened in the past with the Pew, with Richard Katz. Bring them out. Don't get nobody, oh, this side say this, that side say this. Get somebody that don't have a dog in the fight that is a professional in the field. I would think that only makes sense. Unless you don't want the truth. Let me play this thing here.
Nobody needs to be tagging any of us in these type of conversations, especially when we're dealing with a boo. Because we know boo is a touchy subject within our community. So when we have these type of conversations and we tag people in them, especially when we're dealing with a boo, we got to stop that as well. I'm a firm believer. Don't tag anyone in no more posts, because it's getting out of control in our community. We can't control what people do, but what we can do is work together to figure out how can we communicate for the betterment of our community.
Let's keep it real though. If a boo's the boogeyman, I'm worse than he is, right? Like, so if it comes to the pews, I was the only one saying that there is Arabic on the pews. If it comes to DNA, I got these positions before a boo.
More. Let me finish. Let me finish.
May I say something real quick about a boo? And my
when sister's done, you got it.
All right.
You done made me forget my train of thought.
I'm so sorry, sis.
I'm sorry, but I'll give you a minute to get it together.
Yeah, my fault.
I'm sorry.
Y'all keep talking. I'm just like, y'all know how I am about everybody in the community.
No, fact.
Because you love all of us, sis. You love all of us. We all your brothers. We know.
Word is one. Sean did not say last night, you know what I'm saying? We was on Clubhouse or on the stream, and I was like, hey, I need to get a sister so we can all build on her channel. Yeah? Did I not say that one?
We said we was going to do a tour.
And you hit me up last night when I was going to bed or whatnot, and it was like, let's do live. So I set it up for today, sis. My initial thought was to get at you and have you moderate the conversation on your channel. When he got at me, I thought we could have the full conversation.
Yeah, and you know how I am. That's what I was getting ready to say. I would have rather for you all when we had.
Hold on a minute. You see the screen? The real scholars are the Israelites, the real ones, okay? Listen to them. You preach that if you want to. That work with you and your people and how some of y'all think. That don't work with everybody. Scholars in what? The real scholars in what? In science and language and engineering? They're the real scholars in what? Tell me that was a joke. Tell me that was a joke.
These type of heated discussions, I would rather for us to start with, and I'm beginning to get like this with us, a side conversation, get all the arguing and the cussing and the frustration out there, and then we go live. But when we go live with raw emotions and go into the forefront, those emotions are going to show. If it means that y'all have to reach out to me and say, E, we need for you to get Teo, we need you to get whoever on a private Zoom. Can you do this? Y'all know how I do it. Because y'all know I'm going to do what I need to do for y'all. But when we go on these platforms, because it's been moments with people in our community that I have been pissed off at. I'm talking about Ron Dalton made me so mad to the point that I was getting ready to do something. But I had to say, because of the community, I have to be very careful. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I'm driving.
Yes,
I'm sorry. But I have to be very mindful. So I left it alone and left it sitting right there. But with that being said, I would rather for y'all to start out with these type of conversations behind closed doors, because we got a bigger enemy. We got the urban apologists looking at us. We got the non-Israelite Christian looking at us. And if they see us arguing, we're giving them what they want. That's all I'm saying.
So here's the issue, sis. So I'm gonna put out 4 names again, right? So there's Pastor Kelly. I'll put out 5 names. There's Benaiah, there's Morag Brown, there's Tay and Yacoba. That if I try to have the public or private conversation, it's not happening. So what do we do when the big names don't want to have the private conversation but want to talk public?
God.
I agree with you. We gotta stop doing that too as well.
Did Orthodox Moors say anything wrong? Did Orthodox Moors say anything wrong? Is that devil worship? Is that wicked? Is that satanic? Did he say anything wrong? Because folk want to follow the leader. Somebody else said that's why we left Christianity. We're just like Christianity. I be reading the comment section. I be smiling in the comment section. Let me tell y'all something. People are people. Just like in the church, people taking advice from the pastor. They don't know near nothing about no money. People taking advice from the pastor like he got an MBA from Harvard in business, on stocks, on what to do with their house. That ain't that pastor. That ain't that Pastor Lane. That ain't what he do. But a lot of y'all listen to the pastors and listen to the leaders like they're experts in everything. One thing that make a leader great is a leader understands their weak areas. Let me bring somebody else to specialize in this. Everybody in Israel don't deal with the DNA. That's talking about I asked y'all the advice. Who y'all think is the best of the best with the DNA? Come to find out they say something different about them people over there. I'm like, unbelievable. Whilst y'all saying one thing, they said something totally different. Let me get back to the video. Oh, look at that. We built America, Berean. So we are the builders, the scientists, and the mathematicians. I used to be in the conscious community, Ben, Diop, Finch, Van Sertum. I used to believe all that. Listen, y'all couldn't even bend y'all temple by yourselves, Israel. Don't do that. Y'all ain't built no pyramids. Don't do that. That's stuff that y'all tell them y'all can't tell me. Show and prove that y'all built pyramids. Show and prove y'all had the high sciences above Babylon and Egypt. Show and prove that. Come on, man. I don't just believe. I'm not that dude. And there ain't no disrespect to nobody. Y'all had the religion. Some other folk had the sciences. When y'all start saying black folk built that, I know Banneker and laying out DC and the first old and longest wooden clock. I know all of that stuff. We taught the Greeks and all of that. When we talk about we taught the Greeks, Israelites taught the Greeks. That's what Sinnet and Garfield and Dr. Ben and them argue, and Israelites taught the Greeks, or the universities were controlled by the Egyptians. The mysteries, which were the universities, which were the schools. No, man, I don't listen to y'all. Y'all can say anything y'all want to them other people. I don't listen to y'all on a whole bunch of stuff. I'm gonna tell the truth.
As far as I ain't gonna say we, because I don't consider myself to be a big name, but the bigger names have to do that. Got to have the side conversations with them. If you have a disagreement, I schedule a Zoom. Throw it on me. Say, go talk to E and see what he can do. You know, y'all do this for a living. Make sure people don't choke each other. But
what can't, hold on, but real quick, what can't happen, sis, is people can't get coddled and people can't get protected when there's damage being done in the community over this stuff. Like, so for instance, if we got 5 Israelites in the room, right, and 5 of us disagree, 4 of us can have.
Wait a minute, I'm confused. Sister E said, "Send me the link. I can speak for myself." Who is this talking? That's your ultimate person. That's your alter ego. Who that talking on the video right here? I thought that was you.
But peaceful disagreement, and one of us is wiling out. We gotta work that one out, because asking questions shouldn't make anybody wild out. I can ask you, Shuba, a bunch of questions on stuff I don't agree with him on. He's not gonna wild out, and vice versa, right? Yeah. I don't find any question offensive.
Yeah, I see what your point is. I think with him is when you ask him the question about the haplotype, y'all know I'm not an expert in this, but it's an automatic assumption that it deals with sex. And I think when you ask him the question about the sex, it was like that was never the forefront question. So I think he got a tad bit insulted by it. That's
So-
why I think it would be good for me to moderate it. Y'all just tell me what y'all
Yeah,
want to talk
and
about.
I'm gonna say like this because you don't know. So for everyone who does know haplotypes and haplogroups, etc., whatnot, they're making the same basic mistakes on the same basic questions, right? And so again, like I said in my video last night, that nobody is vilifying them because they're making basic mistakes, right? And so they're vilifying people because they don't agree with them. I'm not vilifying them because they're making grade school mistakes on haplogroups.
And that would be offensive to them too, just saying that. Oh, grade school mistakes. And it shouldn't be. They should be able to understand what we're trying to say. Nobody's trying to belittle anybody. Listen, I'm a moderator on KO. I'm probably going to lose my wrench behind this. But the point is that I love these brothers so much. I'm watching these mistakes being made, and I want to sit down at the table with them. I want them to get the understanding, because the same mistakes that they're making is the same mistakes, well, not all of them, that Ron Dalton is making. We do this on a regular. I don't want to be told that I'm using or treating DNA as a religion, because I don't. I take science and I apply it to the Bible. All of us do, because we're all followers and believers first. And so we do that, and we try as a lost people to put this puzzle together. We're trying to put a puzzle together, and we're using every tool. We're using every tool imaginable that's coming to us that we have knowledge of, and we use it to edify the people.
Is there anything wrong with that? What he just said?
I'm gonna tell y'all something. Look at the chat right now. I want everybody to look at the chat. Tell me what y'all see. Everybody's arguing amongst each other in the chat. Who's won?
Teo said he didn't make a mistake.
But your shoe.
Okay. Yes. No. Your shoe. Sorry. No. Hold on, sis. Real quick. Like so. Hold on, sis. Hold on. Give me.
Oh my God.
Hey, sis, you need that mutant. You got that unmutant spirit. We got to do you like on Maria.
So real quick. So I brought them up here to make sure that no one mischaracterized their position, that it was completely understood from top to bottom, right? And so we got to the part to where I was trying to explain to them to where the haplogroup stuff is getting mischaracterized. And so that's where it started getting touchy. It's just clarifying both positions.
I understand your point, but I'm gonna ask you this: what did we gain out of this? Look at the chat. That's what I'm trying to get y'all to do. Look at this chat right now.
What could we have gained out of this? We could have. Hold on, real quick. We could have gained in adult conversations where we could recognize. You know what? There's two different perceptions on two different methods that could work. If they're gonna come out and say haplogroup science is faulty, then we are owed a conversation as to why it is. Because if we're all family, I don't. If you think something's bad for me, you should really explain it to me. Particularly if I'm asking you to explain it to me, right? You can't just tell me, oh, it's bad, leave it alone. Like, I need to know what's better, et cetera.
And Khan, and be open to why we feel that it's not bad to us.
And this is why it's relevant, sis, because I was on your real quick, Sean. And this is why it's relevant, sis, because I was on your channel with Tudor Parfit and Cohen Hamadisha, and Tudor Parfit's telling us that we need to do more DNA collects. I'm asking him questions about other migrations. He said, yes, we need to go test those migrations as well, right? So we're testing those migrations based upon haplogroups and whatnot, right? The same science that Teo and Cobra are challenging, right? So if I'm going to be out here doing work in that community on that level or whatnot, we got to be on this.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Somebody, what my sister said? My sister said, who built the Ark of the Covenant? You know the Ark of the Covenant wasn't as big as a Nissan Maxima. You know the Ark of the Covenant wasn't that big. We talking about whole cities. We talking about whole cities. We talking about the whole of America. Israelites were teaching the high sciences. That's all I'm saying. Israelites were brought here because they knew the high sciences. How to read the stars. They knew geometry. They knew calculus. They knew all of that stuff. It was teaching all of that stuff. We can go to Pool. We can go to the story of the Moors in Spain with some of them Moors Israelites. We can deal with that right there. Hold on. We can deal with that right there. But let's don't do that. To be honest, that ain't even an argument that's on the table. That ain't even an argument that's on the table. We need to, in that case, we need to find temples and synagogues like we got big old structures that still standing thousands of years before Israel in Kemet. We need to have that standard right now. Synagogues all over the world, everywhere Israel is. We need to see the high sciences. We don't see that. That's and what's wrong with that? If God ain't gave everything to everybody, we gotta start being real with just with everything. Science, history, nothing. Oh, I forgot the white man hit it. The white man hit this. Israel built the world. Israel built everything. And the white man hit it, and it's proof out there, but the universities hide it and don't want to teach it. I forgot. If this ain't the conscious community, if this ain't that doctrine, right there, we gotta be. Listen, y'all are different. Y'all are different. It ain't like them other communities. Y'all want to face DNA. Y'all want to bring DNA up and stuff like that. And we got to talk about that. And that's good. Trust me, in the long run, this DNA thing is going to be so much better. Let them other people say DNA don't make no difference. Y'all, it's gonna be worth spending that money to get experts to prove your point in the long run. Hold on. Grace and peace.
Hey.
Adam, ain't no testifying today. What Adam Jackson want? Ain't no testifying today. Hold on, Sister E.
Don't mess with me, Marine, man.
I ain't messing with you. I ain't messing with. Hold on. I ain't messing. You see that? He said I'm messing with him. The other day, we were on Sister E. We was on the other day, and then I'm looking at the comment section. I'm not even looking at the screen. Sometimes I'm walking away. Somebody said, "Is Adam nodding out?" Adam was asleep in the car with the screen on. He knocked out in the car for about a whole half an hour.
Man, come on, Marine.
I'm telling you the truth. Y'all wasn't on the other day, Sister E. You didn't see it.
Y'all be putting me to sleep, man, sometime, man, with these comments, man.
All right, hold on a minute. He said you see how he blamed it? Oh man, come on, Sister E.
What's going on?
That's your people. He said we put him to sleep. He was nodding out. He was knocked out in the car. And he didn't even turn the camera off.
Y'all actually put me to sleep a couple days ago. When all y'all Friday night, I was like, I gotta get on. Well, I had to get on the road, and y'all was long.
Go ahead. I'm taking my headphones off. Let me see what I got in the refrigerator. Go ahead.
Folks while out in the chat and don't realize that the reason I got on was because I saw that the conversation wasn't going anywhere. It was gonna lead to a lot of slander, a lot of frustration. And I'm like, we ain't getting nowhere with this. And it's obvious that emotions are high right now, especially when you're dealing with someone, excuse me, I'm outside. Okay. But especially when you're dealing with people like Abu and all of them, because Abu is a sensitive subject within the community, which makes sense. That's why I say, y'all, let's chill for a minute. Let's stop and let's have a side conversation. And let's get our thoughts together, because I'm not discrediting anybody's information, because I'm not a DNA expert. I'm not. But I know that if the experts want to talk, emotions can't be involved, because if it's too emotional, no information is going forth. And people are watching us. And that was my whole point. People are watching us. And if we get up here, because I've lost it before and had to go back and say, you know what, I was wrong. Yeah. And what I'm learning when we're doing these things, as we grow, people are growing with us. And the moment we get emotional, we cause them to kind of be a stumbling block to them. And that's what I saw. Now, am I discrediting either side's information? No. I love these type of discussions, but when emotions get high, we get nowhere. And I think where we have been going lately with you and myself and different people in the community, that we're able to have these conversations and it's not as emotional. And I see us going back into this emotional state where no information is going.
So we messing up what already been built.
Yes.
It's going backwards to you.
And we're going back into war mode. Why? What is war mode getting us? If we want to talk about DNA, let's do it, but not in an emotional stand. If you're emotional, let's sit back and have a sidebar conversation where the world does not see, and kind of come to the conclusion that, okay, you make sense. This is how we're going to do it in front of everybody. Because again, right now, we're in a state where people are able to talk now. We get interesting with each other because we like to joke. We like to be silly. But ultimately, I see us coming back out of war, and I'm trying to keep us from going into that again. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was trying to do. And people are taking it as you jumped in and trying to stop the discussion. The discussion wasn't going anywhere. And we got to be honest. It was getting to the point where people were getting ready to slander each other. Somebody got to have enough maturity to say, "Stop, y'all. This ain't getting anywhere." And that's what I saw.
What do you think about the whole science? What do you think about the thing that I said? Maybe it's scientists or two should come on that don't have anything to do with anything, but they do this for a living.
Yeah,
that teach in the university, that teach in CD, that have worked for CDC or something, written peer-reviewed articles. You think that'll be good?
Yeah, I think that would be. It would be good.
Hold on, what they said?
I think.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm trying to read this. Go ahead. Oh, you. I don't know. You said you were outside, right?
No, I'm actually. Yeah, I was outside. I'm almost to Memphis. I'm trying to get home, but I mean, I can talk for a second. But I think the experts would be good to bring on and have that conversation. But what happened yesterday?
I remember the Tell You brother saying that he said that they just wanted to answer something that they're not really even experts in it. But I don't forget how he said something about how he got into it. They just wanted to answer or explain something, but that's not really what they do. But you do agree that there's some other brothers in the community, and all they do is DNA videos, and I guess they would be considered the experts in that sense. But
yeah, you talking about Yeshua and all of them?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I mean they've done their research, but as you know,
Yeshua is not no expert. Would you consider Ron Dalton an expert?
I would.
I'm saying that talks the most in this community. I'm not saying that write peer-reviewed articles, worked in the CDC or something, not like that. That's how I'm saying.
I wouldn't even use expert. I'd just be a layman or something. I'm not expert.
G-Con being special right now. See, this is what happened. No, I'm just playing. But I mean, these are the people that talk about it the most. You got Yeshua, you got Ron Dalton, you got Hebrew, the Israel, you had Teo and them. They were talking about it for a little bit. You had everybody talking about DNA. Is the conversation of any value? Yeah, because everybody doing their research, reading the peer reviews, and doing all the good stuff they need to do as far as research. Those conversations are not bad, and that's what I'm trying to say. The conversation itself is not bad. What's bad is when emotions get in the way and the conversation goes out the window and it turns into a slander contest. That's where we got to stop.
I agree. Somebody said it's about my sister said it's about asking questions. People take stuff the wrong way on their own. Yeah. So you do. Yeah. Questions.
I don't think Moore was going to do that. I think Kelly Richard. I mean, whoever that was up there arguing with him, they known for doing that. So they was going to take it there with him. Moore usually don't do that. That's why he was telling him, "You're not going to try to overtalk me on my panel," or because he wasn't letting them talk. He was unmuting his mic and was letting them finish. And so still, did we ever even get to the question, or did questions get answered? Nah, because these brothers start getting really emotional and don't want to answer questions. And Yeshua, he does the same thing because he did it with Ron Dalton. And Ron Dalton does it. When they know that they're cornered in, they're going to start kicking people out the room, over talking people to where even a sister from Africa had to tell him, "Hey, brother Ron, can you let the brother talk and finish his statements? Because people want to learn." You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you causing them not to learn. So I think that's what Moore was going to do that with them. He really wanted to get that some genuine answers and wanted to get some questions in. They ain't going to let him do that, though.
The only problem with that, G-Con, is this. Emotions was high before the conversation started.
But like my sister said, they were talking for an hour good. It started getting high an hour later into the conversation.
Yeah, they started. But the thing is, the conversation prior to, because when I looked at it later, because I had to kind of look at it and see, how did we end up here? That's what's crazy that I saw at the beginning of it, when you're emotional and you're mad and y'all already going back and forth at each other in a Facebook post, then y'all finna take it to YouTube. It's gonna that same energy is gonna follow. And when I saw the video, I said the energy was there at the very beginning, and I said this is when you get to these heated discussions. Y'all need to stop and talk on the side, have a conversation on the side, because I can understand if it was a legitimate, hey, more, because Teo has been on Moore's channel before, and it was never heated. It was just a simple conversation. This isn't Teo's first time being on Moore's channel. This is the second time. This is why I'm saying something happened before they got here. And when I saw the post, I said, oh, they was already on 10. They already on 10. They was going to be on 10 on the live. And that's why I said that. And again, I'm not trying to control. People are grown. They can do whatever they want to do. But yet and still, I saw what was about to happen. And it was not going to be a good conversation. But so both parties was already on 10. Because even Moore was so mad that he brought up what happened with Katz. And I'm like, what does it have to do with your conversation with Yacoba?
Yeah, I think he should have brought that up because
But you bring it up with the parties you need to talk to.
No.
Listen. Let me make my point.
No, that was open.
Why Adam smoking?
It's open. It's an open conversation, but how can you address a question to someone that does not have the answer to it? Majors needs to be the one that they ask that question to. I can't address what Majors did. Yacoba can't answer the question of what Majors did. Majors has to stand before the people and talk about what he did. So addressing it and bringing it out into the open, okay, bring it out into the open. But how are we gonna get anywhere with that?
No. What he said was, he said that he didn't want it to be no Richard Katz type of demonstration. So that's why he said he's not allowing that to go down in our communities. So that's why he brought that up, because he didn't want that to be. He wants to put out the truth, and he don't want nobody, no Richard Katz moment to where somebody putting this stuff out and it's just not true, because it's not healthy for the community at all. It really makes it look bad. So that's why he said that. It wasn't that he was putting that on the brother. He was just telling him, "Nah, we just ain't trying to do that." You know what I'm saying? And so I think that he raised. And I wasn't saying.
And I wasn't saying that he was putting it on Yacoba. I was saying that he brought it up. And when you bring that type of conversation up, which already people are tense about, that's going to add more tension to the conversation. Stick with the conversation in hand. Don't bring up the cats. It should have stuck to the y'all know I'm finna tat a word up. Haplotype. So cats, what does cats have to do with the E to F haplotype? He ain't got nothing to do with it. But bringing that up just added more attention to it, and I was like, "Yep, we getting ready to go here." Like
go ahead.
I
would say this. I would say that if it's getting to a point to where you having a conversation with somebody and it's gonna fire them up in a sense, and that y'all been fellowshipping prior to, then maybe you shouldn't have the conversation. That's the only thing I can say. But at the same time, if you look even in the comments right here, they saying it was more that really. He gets to snapping, and then if you look at it, they said the tail actually brought up the catch first, and so he gets to snap. Not more. I'm sorry, it was tail that got the snapping, and more basically was like, "Hold on, brother, if you're getting offended because I'm gonna ask a question." So when it get to that point, then you get to the point to where I ain't gonna talk about it. Like when I get in front of my Calvinist friends, and I know that they get offended when I get to saying stuff about Calvinism, I'm just not gonna bring it up. You know what I'm saying, when I'm in front of them. But as long as I'm on the air race and I'm in front of everybody else, and the truth got to be told, and I'm gonna speak on it. You know what I'm saying? And so if they just need to cut the TV off or whatever. But if I'm in front of them, or if I know they on my panel, we on the same panel, then I ain't gonna do it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that should have been this situation if that's the case. But I don't think that that's how Moore felt that it was. He felt that he was bringing out some information, or else he wouldn't have had him up there if he felt like he was gonna get offended. You know what I'm saying?
But the fence was already there. That's my whole point. The fence was already on the floor walking onto the live. They had already got into it within Facebook. So what you're going to do is take that same energy from on Facebook and put it on YouTube. That's where I would have thought that, because I'm not taking sides, because people are like saying, you're taking Yacoba's side. I'm not taking anybody's side. I'm taking the side of truth to say truth couldn't have went forth yesterday because already tension was on the floor. Everybody was mad because I was very interested in what each party had to say.
So you do agree the conversation got to go on?
Oh yeah, oh definitely.
You do agree the conversation got to be, the conversation's already, you agree publicly?
I think it needs to be a conversation right now, either
hold on a minute, Sister E, this is for you.
You gonna ask me a question?
Hold on a minute. The UA got PhD in being condescending. Sister E, stay away from that. More orthodox. More ain't no urban apologist. Go ahead, Sister E.
That's so funny. I can say right. They're gonna say. I'm not saying the person you just posted, but I'm looking in the chat. So. And people, regardless of what I say, I know I'm gonna have enemies if I say right, if I say wrong. It doesn't matter. But with that being said, I think these people, until cooler heads prevail, they need to step back. If other people have these conversations, I think it'll be good. I think right now putting Moore and putting Yacoba, and now keep in mind now, these are two Israelites. So I'm not sitting here taking up for an Israelite against the UA community. These are two Israelites going at each other's throats. I think right now, until they can get cooler, till cooler heads can prevail, other people need to have this dialogue. But right now, everybody's so mad and pissed off at each other. It's like, how are we gonna get any information? How are the people gonna get information? Everybody is trying to be heard, but they don't know how to be heard. They don't know how to talk. They don't know how. And again, in this world called YouTube, we know people get heated. We know we go into one of these tangents. But right now, we're in a state where people are trying to have conversations. People are trying to have cool heads. And what we're doing is just bringing back this tension again, which I don't think we need to do.
Okay. Anybody else? I'm gonna put the link out there if anybody wants to share anything. Sister E, are you willing to spearhead that thing if we were to try to start a fundraiser?
I can't
to
do
get
no
to
I am a
get to
horrible
scientists.
fundraiser. You better get a person who's a better fundraiser than me. That ain't my calling, honey. We
That
have
ain't your
$2. Fundraising.
Well, no. I'll
Me.
put it out there. They can send it to you, or they can because we just want someone to pay the scholars. We want a team of people, 2 or 3 people, to look for people that specialize in DNA that have nothing. We're not schooling them on the history of argument back and forth. We're not using the term Black Hebrew Israelite, to drag them into none of this stuff.
Yeah, we can talk about the semantics. I'm good with that. We can do that. That's not an issue.
Okay. All right. That's good. All right. Anything else? I wanted to play the rest of this so they can hear the rest of this, and then we're gonna. I did. Iran, you wanted to say anything? You good?
No, that's all good. I'm just listening. Go ahead.
All right. Maybe she might. Hold on. You said Memphis? You going home?
Yeah, I'm going home because I gotta go do something for work. I
thought you going to the funeral?
Whose funeral? No, I'm going home because I got some training I gotta do for work.
Oh, okay. No, Dolph died. Dolph died down there around your mom and them.
Yeah, he did, and that's another conversation.
Hey, yo, that's a whole nother thing. I hope they ain't arrested. What's that young fool name? That dude is a fool. Oh my goodness! I think they.
No.
Yeah. I don't know. We're gonna find out. What's going on. It's always something. Pray for Memphis. I told y'all there's some fools down there, and they got y'all just ride around with. I don't know. Yeah, I'm talking about big ones. Everybody. Yep. I'm like, Lord have mercy. At least black folk are. And cops pulling them over, sitting in the car, can't even do nothing about it. They done changed the laws up to y'all don't need no permit, no light. It's getting ready to be you thought it was a zoo before?
As soon as I get a chance, I'm getting back on that highway to head back to the DMV.
So you was down there for a few days?
I'm gonna be there for this training gonna go on for the next couple of weeks because some stuff going on at work. But I mean, I'll be there for a little bit, and then I'm head on back home though, because I'm already on 10 coming to Memphis. I'm bracing myself.
Man, it is what it is. Hold on a minute. Second Exodus, what's going on?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't want to overcomplicate anything. The DNA, there's plenty of experts on the internet and peer-reviewed papers that talk about how haplogroups work. It's simply going from one parent to the next parent of that same sex. So if you're a mother and you have a daughter, those daughters are going to pass down mitochondrial DNA. If you're a father, you're passing down the Y chromosome DNA. Y is what make you a boy. So every boy is going to pass down their father's DNA. What we're simply saying is that the haplogroup, the E group, that was found in Israel. It's not that difficult. So whoever the father is from Israel, who that father passed down E to the rest of his descendants. It has nothing to do with what you look like. That's why.
So this is my thing. So from what you said, that's leaning towards more. That's leaning towards who? What the brother from Genesis 49 is saying?
Genesis 49ers and Abu are absolutely correct. Okay. That's how haplogroups work. I have a science background. I don't like to brag or talk, but I have to, just to let people know that I am.
No, you have to come. If you can't sit around and hear beefing in the community and don't say nothing, you got a responsibility.
Yeah, and I'm simple. I just simply want the truth, and let's be honest. That some people who do not have the same haplogroup do not like what they're hearing. If I had haplogroup J and somebody was saying haplogroup E is Israelite, but then
I got to argue my way out of that because I want to.
Yeah, I have to argue.
Right, hold on, Hold on. So just because something is found in Israel, let me ask you this: was Abraham them the founders of Israel?
What do you mean?
Jacob was the founder of Israel.
I'm saying, was Jacob the founder of Israel, the land of Israel? Because you said basically haplogroup E is comes out of Israel. So was Jacob is he when it comes to pertaining to the land, is he basically the founder of the what we call the land of Israel today?
Oh, I understand what you're saying. In that region, there was a group of people. To answer your question directly, no.
Praise God. I'm glad you did that because you was finna go some circles. Go ahead, though.
But I would like to say that according to scientists, they said that people that were in the cave in the Natuf Mountains, Natuf is located in Wal Al Natuf, which is in the Judean Mountains. They said that those people are the ancestors of all Semitic people.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's fine. But when you look at Semitic, this is not really talking about basically Shem. It's basically talking about Semitic speaking people, because when you look at far as like those haplogroups that we see that are of Canaanites or these other people or whatever. So even when you look at them, they're Semitic. You see what I'm saying? So you can't say that they're not. And so what you're trying to do is your show trying to do. These haplogroups actually predate Israel, predate Abraham too. They've been in this vicinity for a long time. And so what you're saying is you basically try to pull it over to the biblical narrative. And so when you pull it over to the biblical narrative, the problem that you're facing is that you're saying just because a haplogroup came up out of a certain area that makes them an Israelite. Nope, that ain't how that works. Or you say that it's Semitic. When we say Semitic, we mean that you have Africans that speak Semitic languages that come from Ham. That doesn't make that they are Shem. So when you use those terms like Semitic, that's not meaning that they come from Shem. Maybe they're speaking a language, and if we want to put it, maybe they're speaking a language of biblical Shem, basically. That's why you have Afro-Asiatics or Afro, Semitic languages, basically.
I agree with you. However, in this context, I'm using Semitic as in a genetic sense. I'm not speaking about the language. We know that people can change language no matter what your ethnicity is. So I can German, but not be German.
And that's what the problem is. Like the brother said, Natufians date back 12,000 BC. Semitic dates back to 6,000 BC. And so what the problem you having is that, and that's why I'm saying you're trying to take the biblical narrative, and it gets confusing because I know we all try to do it, but you're trying to say that just because that haplogroup E comes about of Israel, right, or the land, because it's been there before the land was even called Israel. You're trying to say basically that makes those who from haplogroup E Semitic, but that's just not the case, because the Semitic that we're basing it off of is that when you see that you can be, like I just stated, from Africa, the land of Africa, or because from the continent of Africa, and still be Semitic. You know what I'm saying? You can still be Semitic from that land, all the way in what's called, because you might speak a Semitic language. And so then you say, well, genetically speaking, well, there is no. We just know that people we just know the people that come from Levant area are genetically close to each other and have E haplogroups, but that's E1B1B. When you start dealing with E1B1A, which is a subclad of that predominantly is in Africa. And so I'm trying to figure out if this E haplogroup that we see, E subclad that we see is in Africa, there's E1 B1A, and it has a small percentage of at this 3 to 5% that's in the Levant area. Why is the majority of that in Africa? And why do we see that these different groups that have E1 B1A are not Israelites?
I agree with you. I'm going to I can't stay on too long, but I want to hit those points really quickly and also mention two other things. There were during the Arab slave trade, they castrated a lot of the men. So you don't see E1B1A in large amounts in the Middle East area, because in order for you to inherit that haplogroup, you have to get it from your father. The second thing is migration patterns. So you have a large group of people migrating down into these continents. Kind of reminds me of the Spanish. When the conquistadors came to South America, Central America, these areas, they mixed. They killed majority of the men of the Native Americans, and then they mixed with their women. So now when they take their genetic tests, there's a large, abnormally large amount of people with DNA that goes back to the Spaniards. Does that make them Spaniards? Well, technically, in a genetic sense, yes. But they're not going to look like any of the conquistadors that came down. And I'm thinking this is what happened over the millennia in the continent of Africa. So when we read the Bible, it talks about.
I didn't real quick because I didn't say E1B1A is I said E1B1A is a subclad of E1B1B. You know what I'm saying? That's because I don't know why they and if I did say that, it was by accident because we know E1B1B is referred to for E1B1A.
Oh yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, when we're talking about the Natufians, we're not saying that E1B1A is the Natufian, but it is a descendant of the Natufians. So you have E1B1, and then you have E1B1B present in that area, just like you were saying. However, E1B1 eventually branched into E1B1A. And so,
right, so let me ask you this. If that, okay, so would you agree that according to the biblical narrative, that Ham started off in the Levant area before, and also in Mesopotamia before he moved into Africa?
Yes, all people.
Okay, cool. And even Israel had to go up into the Levant area to even, because it was Africans, it was up there too, far as like Hamites, it was up there. I mean, I'm sorry, not Africans, but Hamites, because they stretched all the way up to Zidon or Sidonian.
Well, before any of that took place, remember Ham, Shem, and Japheth left Ararat. And when they left Ararat, that's when they branched out into all these neighboring regions. And according to that time period, it wasn't that many people on the planet. It was less than 1 million. So it makes sense that, when they talk about the whole world experienced this, well, in that sense, it would make sense that the whole world experienced it because there's not that many people. But what I wanted to also say is, and this is the second thing I want to point out, we have to deal with haplogroup A and B being indicated as indigenous to Africa. And we also have to also take notice of Ishmael's tribe that he comes from in Arabia. After Muhammad died, they had a fight over who was going to succeed Muhammad. This is where you get Sunni versus Shia. Those people branched out of Arabia and they had haplogroup E1B1B. And we can trace through history that E1B1B spread throughout Asia, India, and China, Southern Europe, and North Africa. And then we see haplogroup J push E1B1B down into Northeast Africa and out of Arabia. We also see haplogroup R and J push E1B1B out of Spain and Portugal down into North Africa. And we also see E1B1A concentrated in West and Central Africa. But according to scholars, they say haplogroup A and B are indigenous to Africa, and they were the most widespread in Africa. So the Bantu expansion essentially was E1B1A migrating down from the Levant into Northeast Africa, and from Northeast Africa across the
second, I don't know if you're walking around at but you dropped.
is separated. So you find a concentration of B in Congo in Central Africa. You have a concentration of A in East Africa and a concentration of A in South Africa. That lets you know, and then E is all over the continent. So somewhere in history, A and B were separated from each other.
Right. So the
problem with E.
Right. Yeah, I agree with some of the stuff you're saying, but the problem is that, like the brother says, the descendants of the Natufians, ancestral Semites, were the Proto-Semitic people whose descendants the Hebrew Israelites number amongst. And so the reason why that poses a problem, because would you consider a Canaanite as a Semitic person, or Semitic? Would you consider a Canaanite a Semitic?
Yes, I could consider anybody who speaks the language and have the culture as having a Semitic culture. But that Semitic simply means Shem. That's all it means. And Shem is one of the sons of Noah. That's where we get the word Semitic from. But that doesn't mean that you're ethnically Semitic. It just means that you can be culturally Semitic as well.
Exactly. And so I think that's the mess up right there, because like if you even look at the seed peoples or these different categories of people, even the Horians, you know what I'm saying, what would the Horians be? You know, they spoke an Indo-European language, right? Or did they speak a Semitic language?
The Horians at one time were the Horites, and the Bible is a little bit vague with their genealogy, but the Horians are also known to be Indo-European speaking people. But according to the Bible, they were listed among the Canaanite tribes, which should make them the Hamites. However, you have the Kenizzites who are Edomites ethnically, but because they lived among the Kenaz, the descendants of Kenaz, they were considered Canaanitish tribes. So you have some Semitic people who are Hamitic in culture.
Hold on a second, y'all. Slick ain't got nothing good to say. I know it, but I'm gonna just let him speak anyway.
I have to
peace and blessings, brother Loren. Why you just gonna say I ain't got nothing good to say right off the bat?
I know you ain't into the DNA. You come in here to say something.
Okay. What I gotta say is that G-Con done got murdered on the snippy snip, right?
On what?
Then you might be talking about the snips, man. Come on, man. He made a fool out of himself. Even you said you was embarrassed when G-Con was talking about.
You talking about what he did with his DNA?
Yeah, that was about 7-8 months back, and then your show, but whatever his name is, Genesis 49, to send him on vacation to the Bermuda Triangle, right? He got missing. He wasn't nowhere to be found. Now today he a DNA expert. Like I said in the chat, when Christ come back, he gonna be the top geneticist in the world. You ain't gonna be able to dispute it. There ain't gonna be no bias on this side, bias on that side. Why are we still arguing about this DNA? Until we hold on for a minute, Brother Berean. Until we find some ancient DNA from Jacob them, because even if you listen to that video with Orthodox Moor them, listen to the whole video, he even say that to the prophet said that there's not enough African samples to make a definitive answer on that, right? You got to listen to the whole video. Listen to the whole video. They're saying in some of those things, there are only 3 or 4 African samples. How can you make a conclusion off of 3 or 4 samples? Come on, dude. Let's
wait a minute. So you cutting Israel? So Israel even running around here?
I ain't cutting Israel. What I'm cutting is the DNA thing. Period. Because we're not in control of the samples, and most time whoever in control of the information gonna disseminate information how they want to disseminate.
Slick come in right, and he just don't add nothing to the information. And I'm gonna tell you this.
I ain't trying to. I'm not trying to.
Let me just finish, brother. And then you come in here right, and I ain't never seen somebody's neck that look like an ankle like yours.
G-Con gotta go. G-Con gotta go.
But like I said, G-Con always try to revert to what somebody got on or how somebody look when nobody ain't never even seen G-Con. G-Con probably like a one-eyed cyclops, man. You feel me? Nobody don't know. Only thing we see is a red.
Sometime.
Yeah, and he cross-eyed. You feel me?
Oh, hey yo.
It's eyes cocked like a 38 special, brother Berea. You feel me?
Oh man, them two right there. Hold on, Slick. Lion Farm, come to the microphone. That's G-Con right there. He straightened his eyes out and took his glasses off. I tell you, turn his camera on sometime. Lion, come on to the microphone.
Shalom. So I just wanted to make a comment because I think it's interesting how we're trying to say, the Natufians is such and such an age, but remember, we were just looking at a paper that said J was about 9,500 years BC. And I think it's important if we just examine more, because that paper didn't have everything. It's important actually to see the resources, like the actual deep resources of J, and see where it actually came from.
You believe the conversation is definitely needed, correct?
Yes, I think it's important that we fairly look at if J was only in Israel, or is it actually that we actually find J running around in Mongolia, ancient Mongolia.
Okay. That's it? Anything else?
We're not making J an Israelite marker, though. See, that's the problem. Like, we just really dealing with migrations. And so what you're trying to do is you're trying to make J like it's an Israelite marker when we just showed you.
Well, that's the thing.
Hold on, brother. Let me finish. We just showed you to where a Canaanite or a Hamite can have a J marker. You know what I'm saying? So we're not doing that, bro. Like, we're not trying to, we just telling you that these fellas, you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys is making these, like, you guys are take scholars' information, right?
No, see, look, this is the thing. If you look up the CMH haplogroup,
I can't even finish.
I think it's important we say this fairly, that everyone knows that there's been a release to all the public. It's not even a haplogroup. It's literally called the Kohim model haplotype. It's a badge that is labeled as J-M268. And what it basically is establishing that Jews aren't just an ethnicity, is what they're claiming, but Jews is a race. That's what they're claiming. In fact, they say it's commonly referred to as Semitic or Mediterranean. This is right on this is off Family Tree DNA, which is a public site for everyone. And this is released.
Hold on, bro, because you kind of cut me off. And Jews,
I think such a claim should be examined.
I got you.
Hold
bro,
on a second. Don't say nothing. I want to play a video. I want you to hear it, and you tell me. I want to play 7 minutes of this video. More people on here now, and I want you to tell me what's wrong with this video, if anything. Go ahead, G-Con. Let me cue this up.
I think that you what you're doing is like when you say Jews is a race, most Jews would tell you that Jews are not a race, because a lot of people that's coming to the Jew religion come into the religion of different ethnicities. So they're not saying that they're a race of people. Why? Because they'll tell you, like, it's like Michael, like, what's Dr. Brown, right? Yeah. They'll tell you he's not a Jew. You know what they tell you? He's not a Jew because he believes in Christ. So technically he's not with the Jew religion. He's not part of the kingdom of Jew because he believes in Christ. So now you can't go around telling people that Jew is a race. No, that's Europeans trying to make Jew a race of people. Why? Because they trying to get rid of the anti-Semitic type of talk. You can be a Semitic person because you speak mainly probably a Semitic language or whatever, you know, and still be considered, you know what I'm saying, that like if I ask you,
but isn't that what they said in the video? People use this thing when they start talking about Jew and Jewish, the Jewish religion. They talk about it as a nation, they talk about a religion, they talk about all of that stuff as an ethnic group. Well, it's not no one ethnic group. That's what makes it a little complicated. You agree with that?
So yeah, that's why I disagree.
Bible,
that's why I disagree. I disagree with that, brother Barin. I'm gonna tell you why on that aspect, because when you sit down and you talk to Jews, they don't consider it to be an ethnic race. So then when you start talking to Europeans, they're the ones that's trying to make that. And see, that was the problem with Aaron Elhak now. That was the problem with that situation, because he's trying to identify Jews genetically speaking as a race of people.
So I have an Ashkenazi associate.
Oh my God! Like
his name is Shalom.
This brother, you gotta mute. You gotta cut off spirit. You gotta
I think it's not fair that you're making claims about what I believe. I believe in Christ. I believe in Christ.
I'm not talking about you, bro. I'm not.
But I also know that the Bible illustrates that the Jews are.
I'm not even talking about
people. They're one people from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
See how he's talking. I'm not even talking about this, brother. I don't even know why he keep cutting me off. It's like he can't.
I'm just saying, if we're going to believe the truth, let's believe the truth. The biblical narrative even paints.
Hold on a minute.
Good Lord, this brother come in. I'm talking about what is the deal. So, anyways, when you talk to a Jew, we could bring some Jewish people in this room now. They'll tell you. You say, is being a Jew ethnic? Is Jew being dealing with Judaism? Is it just dealing with an ethnic system, or is it a race of people? Are Jews a race of people? They're gonna tell you no. You know what I'm saying? And any Jew that tells you, yeah, he most likely been European colonized or something, because or he has a racist spirit on, because they'll tell you that a Jew is not a race of people. You can be a Jew.
All right. Hold on with that thought right there. Go with the Bible, with the mixing of who married who. All right, brother, come on to the microphone. I'm going to cue this video up.
All right. So I just want to show my screen because I want to just share something. I think it's important, because if we're going to say that just because, you know, now we believe in Christ, now the people are forsaken, that's automatically giving us Jeremiah 33, just at the ending, just letting us know that the people are still a people. Even Paul says it in Romans 11. But
no. We don't agree with that. We don't disagree with that at all.
Amen. And I just say with such a claim that the CMH haplogroup is the Jews, I just think let us publicly look at that haplogroup, because what I don't think that a lot of people know is that, see, yes, just because like, for example, I'm R1. R1 is found in Israel, but I never say that R1 is an Israelite, right? Like, for example, we know that for sure because when they talk about the people that were found in Israel, even with the paper, with the Canaanites and the sea people, all that, I just admit to truth that that's what's found there, right? And I don't want to say that that's going to be Jews, right?
From what you've heard, are these brothers presenting DNA the proper way?
I think that I think it's not fair that we're not looking at the full picture. Like, for example, I just want to share something.
Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. I want you to comment on this. I want you to comment on this at the same time. I want you to look at something.
Okay.
I want you to look at something.
Yes, I'll look at it.
Let me see.
The Jewish nation is perhaps one of the most well-known but misunderstood groups of people on the planet. I've talked about this long ago in the past, but it is certainly terribly confusing to many how the Jewish identity can be described as an ethnicity, religion, and a culture, although you may have noticed that many people use the phrase Jewish race, or many people in the United States describe their race as Jewish. And even in the past, on my annual demographic census,
y'all can hear that, right?
Audience, I distinguish Jews from any other group of people on the planet. But does this actually make any sense? Is there a such thing as the Jewish race? I've discussed this before rather briefly, but Jewish people are not a typical ethnic group.
All right, so I want to make a comment off of that.
Hold on a second.
Pronounce the prevailing beliefs or traditions which
So I want to make a comment real fast. So the word ethics, that's important to understand that ethics is basically making a group. Like for example, even in the consideration of that, we know that it's written that it says basically not to oppress an Edomite, not to oppress an Egyptian, because in the third generation they'll be part of you. We understand that concept, but there's also the understanding of the bloodline. Now, if we're going to talk about the line of Levi directly, right? If we're talking biblically and we're talking actually, we're saying that the line of Levi is a bloodline written in the law that was preserved into a time. And someone's going to claim it, they got to be sure that their line traced out all time in a time frame of their time frame, right? Like the biblical time frame. If we're talking about the biblical time frame, we're talking about a time frame that we should see that line, that family line, in one place, right? Because coming from Aaron, they had to stay at Jerusalem, right? We should find that family line in one place. Now, it's one thing to say if that family line
has nothing to do with Israel. You talking Levi specifically now. You ain't talking about
specifically. Yes.
All right.
The line of Levi.
That's
the line
a whole different. All right.
Yep. So if we can find, now they say JP58 is actually a group.
No. I'm coming up to that. That's talking about. No, wait. I'm coming up to that. That's talking about. I want you to hear this. I want you to hear the whole thing. What was 7 minutes, 4 minutes? I don't know what.
No. I understand it, but is it reflecting only directly? I'm pinpointing Levi. Like I'm saying, pinpoint.
That's
Levi.
all you do when you discuss DNA?
No. I'm talking about if we're gonna say who are the people, I'm pinpointing Levi. But if we're gonna say what is a Jew is anyone who's grafted in. Like even in the past, people were grafted in, and even with Christ, we know people are grafted in. But if we're gonna say the bloodline of the line of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the one that came from Sarah, Rebecca, and Rachel, we're going to be pointing to the line of Levi if we want to find a purest line, not just Judah, not just Benjamin, but Levi.
Okay.
Because we know it's written in the word itself. It says that Levi is the line that's going to be pure.
All right, I got you. Hold on a minute.
It may sound odd, but countless other larger communities do this as well, especially Muslims, Mormons, or Catholics, a large chunk of whom may not have stepped into a religious institution in years or even their entire life, yet still identify with the label they were born into. Now, the term Semite, most well known in the term anti-Semitism, the discrimination against or hatred of Jewish people, is actually not tied only with Jews, as the term originally referred to a collection of Afro-Asiatic peoples inhabiting the Middle East, including Arabs, Assyrians, Socotrans, and even many groups in Ethiopia and Eritrea who migrated from southern Arabia thousands of years ago. And historically, this also included the Phoenicians, Babylonians, and Samaritans, who actually still do exist, by the way. I've done an entire video on the Austro-Asiatic peoples and how they relate to one another, and it is rather odd to think that people groups like the Jews, Assyrians, or Arabs are related to Ethiopians, Somalis, or even those from northern Nigeria. But in the video, I explained how the family spread to encompass such a vast geographic region, having been impacted by many groups around them. The oldest of the ancient Jewish kingdoms, Israel and Judah, were both located in Levant in the southeast quadrant of the Mediterranean, and hence the original inhabitants would have initially been very similar to the surrounding Egyptians, Arabs, and Syrians in terms of genetics, although their customs and traditions would eventually make them very easily distinguishable. Some have argued that Judaism is de facto the world's oldest formalized religion, as before this, the vast majority of tribes on Earth simply passed down the fluid, pluralistic, animistic practices of nature worship and or ancestor veneration of their forefathers. And interestingly, one of the consequences of this was a sharp increase in the rates of endogamous marriages, meaning the vast majority of marriages were in group, quickly leading to a number of distinct genetic markers to be widespread among nearly the entire Jewish population due to genetic drift and isolation. The Jewish people were downtrodden by the Egyptians and Syrians, but by far the biggest impact on the Jewish nation was the conquest of the Romans, with the Jews being very resistant to the imposition of Roman laws and customs over that of the traditional Jewish religious laws, creating a series of revolts and rebellions. This led to the sacking of Jerusalem by the Romans, scattering the Jewish people, and the Roman province was renamed from Judea to Palestine after the neighboring Philistine tribe, with the Romans hoping that this would quickly extinguish the problem-causing Jewish nation.
So can I say something about this? The
situation
scene right there,
extremely
that scene is wrong. That little scene right there is important to understand. For him to write that they went into Rome just shows that they don't know history. It just shows that they don't know history, nor do they know the Bible. Even the Bible itself, it's written in Acts 18:2. It says, and found a certain Jew, right? I'm gonna skip this part where it talks about the Jew that's found there. Watch what it says here. Because that Claudius had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome and came unto them. Now, what's important about that, that's also historically confirmed. We know that that was a law that was made in Rome, that the Jews couldn't go back into Rome. In fact, the Jews didn't go into Rome because we know the Jews stayed there until the Bar Kokhba revolt during 132 AD into 135. And then what happened after that? They were found in Arabia. We know because the Battle of the Foss. We found them in Arabia battling with the Arabians. That's historically documented and being pushed into the time of the Arabian slave trade in 650 AD. They were pushed into Africa. We know they were pushed into Africa because it's even written that many of them, most of the Jews, it's even written most of the Jews actually dwelt in Egypt. That's very important. So that lets us know they was Egypt, Africa. That's important.
Most of the Jews, or he just said it was a large. Josephus said it was a large number, like 1 million or whatever.
Yeah, it's a large number in
Egypt, tell me where
a large number in Arabia.
Tell me where you think the Jews went. Tell me where you think all the Jews went. To Africa?
The Jews went, like I said, they stayed around that area. A lot of them went into Egypt, and a lot of them went to Arabia. They stayed around that area until the Bar Kokhba revolt. When they called the people, they were calling a lot of people to come to Jerusalem, and they thought that this guy was the Messiah. They thought that he was the Messiah during 132 AD. They thought he was the Messiah, and his name, Bar Kokhba, that's just talking about Simon, son of the star. They thought he was the Messiah. He got all the Jews to come to this place, and this is written. Rome brought basically 1/3 of his whole army, destroyed Jerusalem, sold the city with salt. And command that no Jews could stay in their area. This is when, and now you got to look at the maps after 100 AD, and you can note Rome sealed the top area, that there was no way that they would have went upwards, but they would have went into Arabia, as is written during the Battle of the Foss. They're found in Arabia, and we know that they're battling. Even we can look at.
You talking about Levi? Who you talking? Who you talking about? Hold on. Who you talking about? Who you talking about?
I'm talking about the Jews.
You talking about the Jews as in Judah, Benjamin? Or you talking about Israel?
We're talking about the Jews as the ones in Judah, Benjamin, Levi, the ones that was in that area. They were still in that area. We know they're recorded in that area to at least 650 AD. At least to that point, because we know that the Battle of the Foss, we know that people were being pushed out, and then the slave trade of the Islamic slave trade took place down there. And it's important.
So the other tribes are already been spread out before that. The other tribes wasn't around during the Book of Acts. The other tribes were already in the Americas, in Spain.
No. I don't believe the 12 tribes chart. See, I'm not in a camp. I'm just a person that's examining these things to the truth. And
so when the Bible say the four corners, how is that working out the way you explained it? When
so Jews now that's something that I would get into. But I think I just want to talk about that. They tell the world that the CMH group is a J group. J is and they say it's specifically J1P58. And I just think if we want to know. Let's look in the Bronze Age. Let's just look in the Bronze Age in the time of Aaron, because we know that it said that their J is found in the Bronze Age in Israel, right? So what could it be that also there's found in other places in that time? I think it's important because if you just let me show my screen, I can actually show you that there is a JP58 or J lineage.
All right, wait till I finish playing this video. I'm gonna let you play your screen. Wait till I finish playing this video right here. Y'all tell me what's wrong with this video. I want everybody to see this video. Y'all tell me what's wrong with this video. What a lie on this video.
Endogamous ethno-religious community. So even though they saw a synthesis with many different cultures around the world, they still retain their original base. The bulk of Jews in the diaspora went to Europe, which is how they came to be the largest and most well-known group, but there were many other branches that went as far as China, India, Ethiopia, with certain tales even suggesting that some made it even further than that. When arriving in these different lands, such as Persia, Spain, Italy, or Morocco, there were moderate amounts of intermixing with the native peoples, with an especially high number of female converts marrying into the nation early on. But gradually, they formed into tight-knit, exclusive communities that generally only married among themselves, and this is even more true after the spread of Christianity and Islam. So keep in mind, although the quintessential Abrahamic faith, Judaism, did not spread in the same manner as the other two major religions, which is why you have two Christians from Armenia and Portugal, or two Muslims from Senegal and Pakistan, who wouldn't really have all too much in common. The Jews, even though those from highly disparate groups, generally have a much higher sense of community and camaraderie, and a lot of this has to do with the uniquely harsh nature of persecution and danger faced by the people worldwide.
We can't get on here and read books.
There are many different Jewish ethnic clusters across the world, some of which I've discussed in the past, but the main three are the Ashkenazim, named after a biblical Jewish kingdom, who were mostly located in northern and eastern Europe as the result of countless expulsions and pogroms leading to a migration further into the heartland of Europe. The Sephardim, named after Spain, who were mostly located in Iberia. However, following the Inquisition, the bulk either converted to Catholicism, fled to North Africa or other parts of Europe, or fled to the New World, where the vast majority intermarried with the Latino population. And because of this, a significant proportion, some would estimate in the tens of millions of Latinos, have some significant degree of Sephardi Jewish heritage, as I discussed in an earlier video. And the last of the big three are the Mizrahim, meaning Easterners, referring to the Jewish community of the Middle East, such as in Persia, Arabia, and Egypt. So whenever someone talks about a Spanish Jew or a German Jew or a Iraqi Jew, you can generally distinguish which larger community they are a part of, which has a large impact on their genetics and culture, even if they live in different countries or speak different languages. One of the genetic links that binds all of these Jewish peoples together is their paternal haplogroups, which,
are they wrong on this part?
Many times, although not perfect, is generally a pretty good indicator of shared heritage, and genetic studies on European, Middle Eastern, and North African Jews has shown that most share the same haplogroups originating in the Near East, including J1, J2, T, and E1B1, all typical of other Semitic populations. Others in the worldwide interconnected web of Jewish descendants include the Beta Israel, or Jews from Ethiopia, who are indeed genetically distinct from the surrounding Horn African population, although their actual Semitic Jewish ancestry in terms of DNA is much smaller than many other groups, and their paternal haplogroup distribution is also highly disparate when compared to the Ashkenazi, Sephardi, or Mizrahi, which points to an actual case of mass conversion to Judaism by a small founding population with limited genetic input from the Middle East. Horn Africans as a whole, however, are still related to Jews genetically through the migration of ancient and more recent Western Asian peoples, albeit with a Northeast African or Nilo-Saharan base related to the peoples of Sudan and East Africa. Other smallish Jewish populations around the globe include the Koshin Jews in the southern Indian state of Kerala, again, a highly admixed population that by appearance alone certainly wouldn't stand out too much from the general Indian population. And similarly, there's a small Jewish community in Kaifeng in China that are partially descended from Persian Jews from centuries prior, and due to this, they have largely assimilated into the local population, both from a genetic, linguistic, and cultural perspective, although there has been a bit of a cultural revival in recent years. Lastly, there is a moderately sized group in South Central Africa, mostly in Zimbabwe and South Africa, known as the Lemba, who by and large would appear indistinguishable from the other native Bantus of the region. However, they claim an ancient connection to the Middle East, similar to the Swahili. Genetic studies in recent years have shown a large degree of ancestry from the Middle East when compared to the surrounding Bantu populations, but whether this is specifically from the Jewish diaspora or from early Arab traders is currently unknown. And many Lemba have unofficially claimed Jewish status, although few have actually emigrated to the modern state of Israel. Speaking of which, Israel is unique in having essentially united a wildly diverse diaspora from all around the world, with the Jewish population of Israel coming from Germany, the USSR, Romania, Poland, Turkey, Iran, the Maghreb, Arab countries, Latin America, and has even attracted some from the United States, which has resulted in a religiously unified nation. However, in terms of ancestral, linguistic, and cultural background, is extremely diverse. There's a reason that Israel is often regarded as the USA of the Middle East, and it isn't just due to the external socio-political policies, but rather the diverse nature of settlement in the country. I actually find the situation in Israel to be quite intriguing, as the eccentric pattern of migration and intermixing in the modern state has resulted in a rather unconventional situation for the region, with the bulk of Israeli Jews being native-born and a very high percentage, around 20 to 40%, having a mixed ancestry when it comes to the ethno-geographical origins of their Jewish ancestors, with Ashkenazi, Sephardi, and Mizrahi having extremely high rates of intermarriage, although the Beta Israel, Cochin Jews, and other more disparate groups still have a hard time in finding belonging and acceptance among the general population. In total, what we're seeing in modern Israel among the Jewish population is a fusion of these different groups, which will definitely have an interesting outcome in the future, with Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews having around 20 to 40% Semitic Jewish DNA, making many nearly identical to other European populations, while the Mizrahi have a much higher percentage, especially those around the Levant. Keep in mind, most of the surrounding Arab populations do have a bit of genetic divergence due to migrations from the Arabian Peninsula following the Islamic expansion of the 6th and 7th centuries, as well as the trans-Saharan slave trade, with the majority of Egyptians, Palestinians, Jordanians, and Lebanese Muslims having significant sub-Saharan African DNA from historic intermixing. So most Jews, especially the Ashkenazi, represent their own unique genetic cluster, somewhere in between that of Southern Europeans and Southwest Asians due to their endogamy and early cases of intermixing, although other Jewish groups may be more closely related to the surrounding populations. So to claim that there is an all-encompassing Jewish race is inaccurate, but there is a very obvious substratum or genetic base among most of the peoples of the Jewish diaspora, which
All right, go ahead.
All right, so let's just make one thing straight real fast. So when we're talking of the line of Levi, we're talking about a bloodline, and that one is allowed to be a bloodline. That one has to always be. Now, for the sake of understanding, we know that, like I was saying, many of them become one. We know many groups become one. But I want to share something. I want to share something. Because what I'm talking about is what is showed to everyone, right? You probably seen it before. The Kohen Haplotime. I'm getting an echo from somebody. Maybe it's from the micro. Okay, there we go. All right, so I just want to show you something. So the reason why I'm showing you this because they claim not just that.
Do y'all still hear echo?
Say it.
No, I'm asking them if I'm muting my mic. Y'all don't hear the echo no more, am I right?
I don't hear the echo.
Go ahead.
So this this one from J-M267 is 9,000 years ago. Now that just tells us that if this can reach that age, and we can find it, and if we let me just show you something. This is ancient genetics. What I like to look at, I just like to study ancient history. And I look at ancient genetics on spare time because I just like the thought of people. And what's important is, yeah, the J is found here, but it has more dominant in different areas. Like, for example, if we look at the earliest of J, like where it actually started, its root will be right here. And this is actually Georgia. Now, I'm not talking America, Georgia, I'm talking Georgia, the Caucasus. Now, what's important is there's a difference between Iran and Iraq, which a lot of people, when you hear Zagros Mountains, north of the Zagros Mountains, they usually talk about Iran. Iraq is where Mesopotamia is. There's a massive, you probably can't see it, but there's a massive wall of mountains, and it's called the Zagros Mountains. And it separates Iran and Iraq, which is Iraq has Mesopotamia, and Iran, that's where you're going to see the Zagros Mountains. Like above that is Turkestan and things like that. Now, what's interesting about that is that that's just its start. That's just where it starts at. And if you go to another age, you'll see that it's here. Now, what's interesting about that age, you can see right here is 6,000 to 5,000 years ago. That's Finland. That's ancient Finland. So that's very important because that's where we're going to get the lineages that's going to break from it, and you're going to get a spread from there. Now, I'm going to skip some because some also are also other controversial areas. I would say it's controversial because the place where it's at is very high up. So that's like where the Hittites are and things like that for it to be that high up. There's also other controversial places because even though it's in the Middle East, you got to note what some of these places are. Like this one, this is an Amorite city. This is a city that was taken down and was never rebuilt. And the only people that were there was ancient Amorites. And we're talking long time ago before Israel got up to this point. So it's actually very important to note that. But I'm going to go and show you something real fast. So the common one that most people know is the one in Sidon. A lot of people like to talk about that one. But if you note the dates on that one, it's actually very important to note the dates on that one. To find them in Sidon, which is actually called the city that the Canaanites stayed in, like certain cities like Megiddo and stuff like that. Even Megiddo, we find them in Megiddo, and that's important too because Megiddo is a city where the people were in. For example, they call them Israelites, but we know they're not Israelites because in Megiddo is actually written in Judges that, for example, in fact, I want to quote it directly how it's quoted. Let me actually get a phone because I like to have a Bible next to me because I like to look at these things very carefully. In Megiddo, that's not an Israel. There would not be no Israelites there because if we look in the book of Judges, we actually get that really early where it talks about Megiddo and the condition of it. And I'm just going to read it right off of Judges. It says in Judges 1:27, it says, neither did Manasseh drive out the inhabitants. I'm going to skip some of these cities. It says inhabitants of Dor and her towns. It says, nor the inhabitants of Megiddo and her towns, but the Canaanites would dwell in that land. So that's actually very important when we note stuff like that, because I'd like to match history, but that's not what I really want to focus on. What I want to focus on is also this lineage that's a major people that's actually over here, and the ages over here is actually important too, because you can note here this is supposed to be the Israelite period, and it's called UUS 001, and this was just found in 2020. And there was a guy, I know there was a guy, he was complaining about a paper that came out, and it actually confessed that Jay can even reach 9,500 years BC with the fossils. And I thought that was interesting because when complaining about the Natufian being in the homeland of Israel and only being found there, nowhere else, I think that's actually showing us that's a Shemitic lineage. But here we're looking at a lineage that reached all the way in the Bronze Age, being the lineage that's decided, because what you're seeing here is actually tracing, because let me make sure you can see this right here. This is going to be JP58. And the dark green is what you're seeing there. And you're seeing a lineage in Mongolia, 1350 to 900 BC. And I think it's important to note that this is the lineage that is claimed to be the line of Aaron. This is the claim that they claim that this lineage is actually a branch of that line from Aaron. That's actually important to understand because the breakdown, what you're looking at here, when you're seeing all these people combined together, if you trace it to its roots, and for example, I'm unbiased because you would say that I'm actually here. So I'd be like, welcome in the community. But I'm going to tell you the truth. When I look at the truth, we are not shocked when we see things like this, because if you actually follow each one of these direct lineages, because this is actually each one of these already verified with a geneticist. I want to show you something. What I verified with a geneticist is important to know. I talked to Family Tree DNA, and I had a conversation with them on something, and I think it's
Hold on.
important.
All them people he showed in those videos, you bear witness, they all could be Jewish, all complexions, all different hair types in that video I just played.
So that's the thing. So note what you're seeing here. I would have no problem with that, except the E and J makes a big difference. The E haplogroup and the J group, that shows that there's something not right. That's when I say something not right, that shows that really, if we want to point to one lineage being Israelites, which one is it? Is it the E group or is it the J group? That's actually important, because I'm going to show you real fast why I'm saying I talked to family tree DNA, because I said this. I said, yes, then is it correct to say, because there's a group called FM89, which is important to note that all the lineages that you see over here, all these come from F. That's important. All these just come from F, but these ones don't. These ones don't come from F, and that actually makes a big difference. That's important, because these are actually one family. These are actually all one family. When I say one family, let me just show you something real fast. It says, yes, then is it correct to say FM89 is the grandfather of IJK, because IJ or J is the group they say is it, and then K makes R and T and L and all those things. It says, but not A and B, because A and B is a different lineage, nor D and E, and because D and E is a different lineage. And what the geneticist said was yes. He said, the reason why that's important is because I noted that there's 3 lineages. Like the genetics actually show there's 3 lineages of people, that there's A and B lineages, which are different than D and E lineages. And there are CF lineages, which are different than A and B and D and E lineages. And I thought, if there's those 3 lineages, therefore A and B must be Ham, and CF must be Japheth, and DE must be Shem. That's what we're seeing, because even looking at the history, I study on Elam, and I found that Elam traveled all the way, and this wasn't even genetics, it was just books. Just Elam traveled all the way to like basically China and Japan and stuff like that, and then find out that there's certain people they had there, they looked at the genetics, and for them to have D, I was like, oh, that's interesting. What makes D different than, A and B? D has a split. There's a different split where you get CT, and CT makes DE and CF. I don't want to get too far with that, but just know that what they basically said, just to make it a little more clear, I think the first geneticist that answered was a little more clear what I was asking. I just said,
let me ask you a question. You saw the video with the Orthodox Moore and the Mother Brothers? You saw that video I played? You saw that yesterday?
Yeah, I've been looking for a while. I just want to leave off on this. That when considering these ancient genetics, I think it's important to look at the full picture. And I think it's important to note, Dr. Nathan Jensen said that the lineage that came out and took over the land, it's important to understand that they're actually from Mongolia. It's actually this lineage that was over here in ancient Mongolia that came out, and they actually settled over here, and they also mixed with other people. And what's important to know that this group actually traveled with Scythians, which was a European group. And this group actually was a dominant European lineage that actually would reign in Turkestan and Mongolia, even all the way to over here. So I'm just making a point that it's important to note that we do have evidence that is a European lineage. So I just wanted to say that, and I just want everyone to understand that the groups that you see in these groups here, if you look at, for example, if you look at the Turkish groups comparison with that, what I noticed was something very interesting. And basically what I noticed is that their lineages are about the same. In fact, no, they're identical, but you have this group here that is a different lineage. But when you trace that lineage, that's the Israelites, because if you think about it, read where it says Ishmael and the sons of Keturah, they stayed around the land of Israel. So you should find the Arabians in that area, even fill in the areas where Israel would come out of Egypt and fill that land later on. So finding a lineage that was basically reigning there alongside other lineages is important to note, the difference between these lineages, because I hear that some people try to say Eve was Canaanites, but that's when you got to look at who were actually the Canaanites. They were people that came down that took the areas of the A and B lineages, and the A and B lineages basically mixed with them. Like, for example, some of the J mixed with some of the L0 and different things like that was over there. But you got a split of L0s and A and L1 and L2 and different ones like that. You get different lineages like that. But a lot of them, you got to note, there's a difference between those lineages and the lineages before.
Let me ask you a question. You hear me, right? Let me ask you a question. 2 questions. Answer what's on the screen. Them folk over there, we talking about Sephardic or those fake Jews, yes or no?
So, but why is A and B? So
Jews,
that's the thing. So I'm glad you asked that question. So I actually did a video and a note on that. I found a note. They call it, is actually important to understand, is a video I made about A00. Now I want to show you something, because you're probably thinking about, how they say we all come from A and stuff like that. But if you look carefully, I want to show you something, because if you look carefully, you'll note that we never found Adam. In fact, we never found any of the ancient people.
But are those what people are saying online, what these Israelites saying online, they're fake? Them Sephardic are fake, they're not original. Is that true, yes or no? That's the question.
This is the thing.
Yes or no?
So this is the thing. When you're talking genetically wise, we got to find a lineage that would fit the biblical narrative that says that they would be either around Africa or around Canaan. So we had to find them there. But if we find them past 800 BC in the north, that disqualifies them as Israel. Because before 800 BC, none of them went north. We know that for sure. None of them went north before 800 BC. That's important. So finding a lineage that's massive in the north kind of settles that. And A and B lineages, it's important to note, I have a video on my page where I talk about basically the evidence of the split of Ham, Shem, and Japheth. We actually all come from CT lineages.
So you think these geneticists, you think these scientists are reading the Bible along with the DNA information? Would a scientist really even come on here and say that's the legit way to do it, or they just throw the Bible to the side and we're trying to figure out who could fit what with what scientists are saying? Because I don't think scientists read the Bible.
So this is what I learned through life. I learned that God is first. God is always first, and his way, he speaks truth in his word. So I learned that things in this world that are displayed that contradicts his word, you got to examine. You got to prove all things, hold fast to what is true. And what I found was that if I can find a lineage that, for example, a lineage that makes its own but doesn't make other lineages.
These folk ain't
right?
no question. Are them folk fake? Are them folk? That's just the question I'm asking. You talking about?
All right, so here's the answer.
Listen to me. Are them folk fake? Yes or no? That's the question. That's the first question. Are those folks not real descendants of Israel? Is that what you believe from your research?
If we're talking about from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, correct, from those father lines, then they're not those, but they can be people they can be grafted in. Like, for example, if they convert to Christ, they can be saved. I think that anyone can be saved. I think that anyone can be Israel if they convert to the Most High. But I don't think that if we're talking about the line that points to Aaron, the bloodline of Aaron, the biblical bloodline of Aaron, I don't think these are the people. I don't think these are the people at all, because their lineage is found in ancient Mongolia as a dominant lineage, as a people that was over there for a long time.
Those people, those Kohanim, them people over there in Africa, them Jews in Africa, they're more closely descendant.
I'm talking BC time. I'm talking 1350 BC, 900 BC.
Who DNA right now? Who DNA right now is closest to the Levites? The African Jews?
The E1B1.
Who lineage got that on the planet?
The E1B1 lineage is found and dominant in many different people.
Like where? Like name of the countries?
They will know who they are. They'll know who they are.
What do you mean they'll know who they are? You don't know no nationality? The people from Ghana, people from people from West
So
Africa?
that's the thing.
Is that
So
the majority of people that came over here with the slave trade?
So when we're talking genetics, I'm not talking eugenics. Eugenics is the peopling of people by color. Like, for example, I'm R1A, right? I mean, R1, I'm R1, right? If I'm R1, how is it that we're grouping people just because they're color? You know, what about the history? Like, what's the history of me, right? Where did I come from? What did I know, right? Who am I and where I've been? You know, what place have my ancestors been? What place did they come from? What real people in this world am I, right? And yet people group things up like you're black. You're black. You're just black. You just accept you're black. You grew up in the monkey area, is all only monkeys and nothing else in your life. It's something that we need to know sometimes. We just want to know who we are. We just want to know not just what the world, because eugenics came from Darwinism. And if you look behind that, it was racism. And if you look from for example, chattel slavery only started in the 16th century. At first, when slaves came here, I understand the history. I know that when they was taking slaves, they were also your servant, people who sold themselves as in servitude. We know that people, I forgot what they call it.
Indentured service, a lot of Europeans.
Yeah, indentured, yeah, not just Europeans, but different people of different descent. Because they seen a way to get an opportunity, a free ride to an opportunity of a life-changing event. They get a ride there as a servant and serve for 7 years or so and get free. But it wasn't the same for people of color. When they got there, they found out the rules of the land. And about the 1600s came the chattel slavery.
I want to ask some questions because you got your own agenda going on here.
This is history.
I want to ask some questions. The E1B1, that's a majority DNA that we're looking at. That Israelites look at, because what they're saying is not matching up with what a lot of these people teaching. All these slaves coming off the slave ship are all our most of our DNA that group that comprise Israelites.
I don't think the world consists around slavery, but I do think slavery became a major part of the world. Now,
I'm talking about black folk in America, transatlantic slave trade, and the doctrine that's
why is it that we gotta use eugenics? Why we gotta call people black? I understand that people of color are dark skinned, but different people have different color skin. Like all types of haplogroups have different color.
Brother, listen, there's a doctrine being taught out here. That's what my channel deals with. There's a doctrine being taught out here that who we think is Israel is not Israel. Most of the folk that done came off in that slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, black folk in America are Israel. Does science prove that doctrine? Yes or no?
Why is it that we call them?
All right, I'll see you later.
Why is it that we call them black and call them slaves?
I'll talk to you later, brother. Because you can't even. All right, y'all. God bless. I'm getting out of here. Y'all folk can't even answer straight stuff. This the doctrine y'all teaching. This the doctrine folk out here teaching. All I want to know is who's right. Those brothers are saying this. Those other or Orthodox more, and somebody else is saying something different. Do you line up more with what they say? Just explain it. Slick, explain it. All this extra talking, just explain it.
Hey, brother.
You know what they out here teaching. You know what folk out here teaching. That them folk over there is fugazi, and the black folk over here that fit the curses. So we trying to line DNA up with the prophecy. He talking all over the place.
Brother
what it is.
Brother Brian, can I read
folk
one?
Don't want to say if they on some race stuff, they on some different. Folk don't want to say what it is, or these folk or this doctrine, these Israelites are lying. We can't go with none of that stuff. That's all. I don't understand what's the problem. Come on, Slick.
Can I read one scripture before you bounce, brother?
No, you can read. You can read a few scriptures. It's always good to read scriptures.
I just want to go to. I want to go to Micah 7 and 15. It say, according to the days of thy coming out of the land of Egypt, will I show unto him marvelous things. So just like in Egypt, because this future prophecy, just like when we came out of Egypt. He did it in front of Pharaoh and all these people so it can be so they can see the glory of God. It say the nations shall see and be confounded at all their might. They shall lay their hands upon their mouths and their ears shall be deaf. So it's gonna be a shock who Israel is. People gonna have their hand over their mouth like, oh, they the people? This DNA stuff is fruitless. we ain't gonna never get to the bottom.
You saying that because what are you saying that because Jews control 23andMe or that Jed match or whatever?
Not just 23andMe. A lot. If Jews don't control the DNA company, it's other ethnicities that control it. Now we got some African DNA, whatever, but they don't have no ancient samples and all of that like those big time companies. So like I said, it used to be on YouTube, but they took it off. Diane Sawyer did an interview with the dude that ran the 23andMe, and he said that them DNA tests was for entertainment purposes only. That's what he said.
Stupid.
That's what the man said. He said gives people hope. Whenever you send what you think you are seeing from, they try to give you something in the close vicinity. And even whenever they was doing Oprah and all them DNA, how come they was getting like 2 or 3 different things from different companies? What's all the switching about? DNA don't change, so why the results change?
Alton, hold on. Alton, you said you got that clip. You know what Slick talking about? Type of one. I think he said he got that from Diane Sawyer, you said?
Yeah, Diane Sawyer interviewed him. It was on Dateline. And like I said, I went back to find it, and it ain't on YouTube no more. I couldn't find it nowhere. But a couple of years ago, it was up there. She interviewed that dude. He the one who, that man said 0.00001% accurate. That's what he said.
Wow.
Now,
but yo, I don't know. Some of what these folks, somebody messing this DNA and playing with it and twisting some stuff around, and it ain't that. It ain't supporting their doctrine. Something ain't supporting their doctrine. That's how I say, bring the scientists, bring it out. Now, if it's garbage, it's garbage. And y'all want to go with the prophecies, go with the prophecies. I know some other brothers on here, and they said, yep, them folk over there, these folk over here, percentage of these folk over here is A, B, C, D, and it go against the majority of what this comment section in here say. And this group stay with a large number of Israelites in here. And it goes against it. A, B, C, D, and it's so some black liars running around here. And if the experts are saying one thing, it's one thing. That's all I'm saying. Let's just get down to it. It's too much switching up, too much back and forth. Let's get down to it and just see what the experts are saying. Whoever's wrong is wrong. Come on, I'm gonna put the link out there in case anybody else wants to say something on the subject before I get it. Because he done got me aggravated with all that talking around. Say what it is. Who right? Or them other brothers right, or Orthodox more, a boo like the other guy said, somebody's leading to, or everybody don't know what they talking about. Come on, you ready? Go ahead and read the scripture. I'm putting the link out there. Well, you read the scripture already. I muted myself.
Yeah, that was the only scripture I wanted to read, Brother Berean. Like I said, I didn't know how long you was gonna be on. But yeah, that was all right. Hold on.
Go ahead, Second Exodus. You fell off of something when they was reading some stuff. I'm trying to get down to the bottom of it. Second Exodus. Somebody is wrong. That conversation yesterday, somebody was wrong. That don't make nobody a dummy, but somebody is wrong. Clearly, two people looking at stuff, they looking at it differently. You said from your understanding, you ride it with Moore and Abu and whoever else is arguing the way they're arguing.
Yes, I'm riding with Abu, Dr. Jensen, Orthodox Moore, because of the science. Now, my point of view is E1B1A is Israel. Other people's point of view is saying that it could be another haplogroup. And that's perfectly fine. That should be a discussion that everybody should have.
So now E1B1A is Israel, or E1B1A is Israel, and not everybody that descended from Abraham, right? You're not saying that.
I'm not saying everybody who has E descended from Abraham.
So what happened if an Israelite right now go to GEDmatch, do all of their stuff, 23andMe, and they come back, they ain't E1, they're not that. What happens?
Nothing crazy.
And they believe that they're Israel according to the prophecies.
Well, nothing. They can continue to keep the culture of Israel. and just understand that their paternal ancestry does not go back to, if Jacob is E1B1A, it doesn't go back to him.
All right, now we going somewhere. Somebody could just be a Gentile. Somebody, they ain't to disrespect nobody. Somebody could just be keeping the culture, and they ain't really Israel, but they keeping the culture. You ain't nobody saying nothing wrong. Ain't nobody saying nothing wrong with that. But everybody that's claiming Israel, do you know anybody that came back and they ain't E1B1A and they ain't E1B1A?
Dr. Rick Kittles of African ancestry, who did the specific DNA test for African Americans and the African diaspora.
After when Oprah Winfrey went back running her mouth after reading his thing?
Well, Oprah Winfrey, ironically, since she didn't really understand how genetics work,
yes, apparently, yes,
she affiliated herself with South African Bantus.
Yes.
And technically, she is related to South African Bantus for the most part. Most South African Bantus have E1B1A. It's a fact.
Okay, so if somebody, like you said, if somebody don't, who don't?
We can Marlon Wayans, the entire Wayland male lineage from the Wayans.
So those, go ahead. I'm sorry. Say it again.
Nas doesn't have it. Nas is, I think, is haplogroup I. The Teo brothers, they don't have it. I think they're haplogroup G. The list goes on and on. There's many people who identify as African Americans, but they have a different haplogroup.
You don't see that problem. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, second Exodus. You don't see that's a problem?
I don't see it as a problem.
You don't?
No,
somebody on the corner, they run into Nas and they telling Nas, you Israel.
Oh, now that's a problem.
And he in Israel.
That's a problem, because they're telling him that he's Israel and he might identify with being ethnic Israel.
Now, what do you mean by that? Now, proselyte? Because there's plenty of people on the corner preaching, telling everybody they Israel. My whole neighborhood, not where I live now, but the whole neighborhood around the way, they on the corner every Saturday telling everybody they don't care, everybody Israel. Sometimes they'll say, well, who your father? Where your father from? Well, my father from West Indies, and I was born over here. My father met my mother. She was from there, and all of that other stuff. That's a problem right there, though.
That is a problem. This was before people started looking. The person that I know of that started all of this haplogroup business was Joshua ben Ephraim. He was the first one to talk about haplogroup E1B1A being the Israelites. The camps, on the other hand, were talking about the curses of Deuteronomy 28 and Native Americans based on the Apocrypha. So they read somewhere in Second Esdras that people passed through Asarath, and that was the Americas, and that's why people were considered Israelites, because the Native Americans had fringes and things like that. So that's going off into like this Mormon belief that Israelites were in America.
Yes. With the they already, before Christ even came on the scene, they already left. Thank you. Yeah, somebody did send me the video. I think that's it right there. Keep talking. But wait oh man, now he done. So if somebody's DNA, if somebody claiming they Israel, and then they turn around and they DNA come back and they ain't Israel, and they preaching that we all Israel.
They're wrong. They're incorrect.
That's a whole mess he done came and said, you get ready to get put out. You get ready to get put out of Israel right now. Hold on a minute, second. Melvin, come to the microphone. You heard what he said?
So yeah, I heard everything. But this the thing with me, I went and did mine, and it came back E1B1A, and I've been sitting. I only did it because of the talks that's going on. I really want to know. Yeah, I did it just to find. I just did it to find, because I really want to know the truth. But it came back E1B1A. But
see, he said he's proud. He proud. You think you better?
No, I'm not proud. I mean, because
suppose it would have came back something different.
Then it would have came back something different.
You would have still followed the culture of Israel?
Yeah, I would. Because look, this the thing with me. before I even started claiming that I was Israel, right? When I was about let's say 20, I think it was around when I was like 24 or something like that. When I was reading the Bible, you know, I was looking at all the stuff that, you know, they were keeping and stuff like that. But I was just like, you know what? Sabbath is a rest day, right? So this is just me. This is my personal thing. Yeah. I'm like, you know, Sabbath, like God bless the Sabbath. You know, I want to keep the Sabbath. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah. So before I even identified as me being an Israelite, I was keeping the Sabbath, practicing the dietary laws and stuff like that. Only because like I see like some good in keeping most of those dietary things, because when I was, and I ain't gonna lie, I used to eat pork before I even came to the truth, you know. I used to eat pork all the time, and I used to have these real bad headaches. I used to get sick all the time. And then when I started practicing that stuff, like I stopped getting sick. I stopped having the headaches. Huh?
No, I stopped. I just tried to cue up the video. Go ahead. Yeah, so you know, I wanted to say, like, I was looking at this, like when I was putting in the chat, I said, I think it's important that we do go to like expert peer review, like people that study, like got degrees, college degrees to, you know, study this type of stuff. Yeah. But I just had a question for Second Exodus, because I know he said he had studied, you know, this stuff, but it's this article. Go ahead. Yeah, it's this article that I was reading, and then again, this is not to just, you know, bash anybody, but when I was reading this article on the origins of Ashkenaz and Ashkenazic Jews and Yiddish, right? And this is I got it up right now, but they talking about in this article that they're Turco-Irano-Slavic people. And me personally, I just want to know the truth. I just, you know, was looking at this, and they was talking about how that's where their origins come from. And I just wanted to see what you thought about that.
Sure. I, J, and K was a single haplogroup at one time, and they're from that region, the Caucasus. Now, they split into I, J, and K individually, right? J is found largely in Chechnya and Armenia. And they themselves have an oral tradition that say they came from Togarmas. And Togarmas, they trace that themselves. They trace that back to Togarma, which is found in Genesis chapter 10, verse 1 through 5. And Togarma is the son of Gomer, and Gomer is the son of Japheth. So if we understand that haplogroup J belongs to the Turks, and haplogroup J is associated with the Turks, and we know that I, J, and K used to be in a single haplogroup at one time, then, you know, we can assume and make the hypothesis, or we can make an educated guess that I, J, and K represents the Turkic people. And the Turkic people, based on Togarma, who is the ancestor of the Armenians, we can say that they are Japhet. That's how we are able to link all of these different letters back to C and F. And C and F branched off of C and T. So that's how we're tracing it back, the haplogroup tree. So
okay, because that was exactly what I was reading in this article. I don't know if Brian want me to. I don't know if you would want me to share this, share my screen so
go
I can
ahead,
show
brother.
it.
If you in, come on, man. Come on. You go.
All right. So let me see here. Because they even brought up the whole
up
Genesis.
Next, what are you talking about? What is Up Next talking about? I'm sorry. Go ahead. He talking about how to put him out again. Well, hold on. Let me read.
Yeah, because
maybe they put you. Yolanda, y'all put Up Next out. Go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, because this, like what I said, this is the article here that I was referring to, that I was reading while you guys was talking, and this is the ancient map where I was looking at all the stuff, right? because like I said, I like to research and I like to learn new stuff. So I was looking at this map, and this is like the map that they made of the table of nations, and you see where Japheth is, and then it says Ashkenaz is right here by the Caspian Sea. And I was always wondering, like, because this was before I even identified as an Israelite. I was looking at this stuff, and I actually did one video. I don't touch on DNA too much because for me, I'm not an expert.
How long you been identifying as Israel?
I would say since 2014.
Oh, okay.
Since 2014, yeah, about 2014. But this is the part where I'm trying to find it, because I was reading this article and it mentioned Genesis 10 specifically. That's why I was asking you that, because I wanted to know if this article is actually, correct on what it says. I'm just going to see right here. It says the historical meaning of Ashkenaz, and then they even bring up this Genesis 10:3 right here. And this is a scientific paper here. This is from Menipal Centre of Natural Science, Menipal University, India Department of Linguistics, Tel Aviv University, Tel Aviv, Israel Department of, so you get the psychiatric behavior and science, John Hopkins University. These are all the peer reviews here that they all came together and did this. So this is why I was like, when you guys was bringing up the DNA, because I remember a while back on my channel, I had looked at this, and I was, because I always had a question: are we in the time of the Gentiles, and who are the Gentiles in the land as the Bible spoke about? But that's the only reason why I wanted to.
So when the Bible says Genesis or Jerusalem should be tried now by Gentiles, that mean you think near one or the ruling class, or you think near one Israelite is going to be over there until the time of the Gentiles are over? You think because the way that scripture reads that no Israelite could have stayed behind and never left? No real descendant Israel?
To be honest, I don't really know. That's why I asked questions. But I do know that the Bible does say that they're going to be over there, treading the holy city underfoot 42 months, which is roughly 3.5 years or a little bit over. But I wouldn't say that because, like I said, I'm not a geneticist. It could be some people over there, and it could be that the fact that they not. But I do know that. It's saying that they were spread to the four corners of the earth and stuff like that. So I wouldn't discount the fact that it could be some people over there. But then again, I'm not sure. I'm just saying, that's just me.
Okay, I got you.
So they talking about this stuff in the 11th century. I just want to ask a few questions about this article.
Yolanda, up next, he hit me the email and said he done got, like, y'all done put him out. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's another part. It's another part in here. I had wrote down a note. So let me see. The genetic structure. They get into the genetic structure, and then they talk about how they were the AJs were localized to modern day Turkey and found to be genetically closest to Turkic, Southern Caucasian, Iranian populations, suggesting a common origin in Iranian Jews, Ashkenaz land. So I'm gonna take this down because I don't want to go too much into this article, but that's why I want to come on so I can ask questions, because like I said before, I'm trying to find out based off, information being presented. And the only reason why I did my DNA was because, everything that was being said, and I wanted to know what I was. Because I remember in school when we was learning about Black history, all I could remember is we came off ships. We don't know what specific part of Africa we came from, and I just want to know the truth, like where is the origins and stuff from.
So I'm gonna tell y'all the truth right now. Y'all want to hear the truth? I'm gonna tell y'all the truth right now. Second Exodus got me going with that. Now, you folk that done went and the Spirit told you that you was Israel, and you turn around and get your DNA and your DNA say you ain't E1B1A, how that's gonna work, Second Exodus? Or these folk hear doctrine on the internet and they just believe in stuff. And my thing is, oh man, I don't know. I don't even know if I could. I don't know how to receive that second Exodus, because a lot of people running around here saying, if you ain't Israel, you can't teach me. So how folk DNA coming back and folk ain't Israel? Oh man, listen, second Exodus, come to the microphone. I'm scratching my head right now.
Well, I just think that can you hear me?
Yeah. You got the floor.
Okay. I was just thinking that some people may read the Bible and they may get that spiritual understanding.
Okay.
But I'm I don't want people to only get the spiritual, because God says what? 2 or 3 witnesses, in the mouths of 2 or 3 witnesses, let a matter be established.
Amen.
What better way to let a matter be established from tracing a crime scene? You use genetics, you use people's testimonies and stories, and you add them together and create a narrative. And you're recreating the story that took place. And so we know that, hey, Ishmael, I'm not talking about us, but Ishmael has E1B1B. Or at least people who identify as being descendants of Ishmael has E1B1B. The Islamic slave trade took place. The spread of Islam happened. They have E1B1B. They targeted specifically E1B1A. And then it transitioned from the Arab slave trade and the trans-Saharan slave trade to the transatlantic slave trade. Why were they specifically targeting a group of people? I don't know if they had DNA back then, but they were specifically targeting a group of people based on their culture and their traditions and maybe their history. And this group of people have the same genetics. Just like Yakoba was saying, he's saying that, all of us have this Lemba and this Igbo and this Ethiopian Jew. It's all matching. And we know through the history that some of us have different father bloodlines because of the history, right? We know that rape took place. Now, as far as the camps talking about you're Israel because of their skin color, if I said Chinese, what immediately pops into your head? Somebody who happens to look, to have what we call Asiatic features, right?
Yes.
So we don't get that same reaction when we say Israel. But these historians back in the 1850s on backwards, they used to say that Israel had a Ethiopian look. They had a black skin color. They had woolly or crinkly hair. And so whenever, just like how we say Chinese today, and we immediately think like, oh, that's what a Chinese look like. Back then they said, oh, this is what a Jew looked like, or this is what an Israelite or a Hebrew looked like. During the New Testament time period, they always associated Israelites with Ethiopians or Egyptians. That's why that Greek soldier says to Paul, are you that Egyptian?
Yeah.
And then you have to ask yourself the question, are the Egyptians that are calling themselves Egyptians today, are they the same type of Egyptians that Greek was referring to? That's a fair question.
Got to ask that, because Egyptians didn't look the same all down throughout their history. But second, I'm hoping you're understanding the implications, because some people are saying that means you can't really say if you fit the prophecies, because white folk was enslaved too then.
Well, let me ask the question. Everybody else who was enslaved, have they lost their identity? Have they lost their identity completely? Have they been?
I don't know. I don't think I've looked into enough other cultures. Why we would go, like you were bringing up, indentured servants. They weren't. That's the difference. They weren't enslaved forever and then had children, and you could keep their children. I don't think that part there. No, I don't think that part there happened to. I'm talking about transatlantic slave trade with the slaves that were coming over here. I don't think that part.
Now, I'm just going beyond the slave trade, because there's people with E1B1A living in India called the city, and they say they don't know who they are, and they talk about a 400-year captivity.
How they
Same
got
thing.
there? How did they get there? They were there before Christ. How did they get there? They were there before Christ. They were there after Christ. They came with slavery.
It probably was different migration patterns because there is a Arab slave trade that took a lot of slaves from East Africa and brought them to India.
When we talk about the scattering, you say the scattering. When we talk about the scattering, all Israel you think is scattered all over the world got there from slavery only?
Not through slavery only. There was a lot of refugees, migration, looking for better places to live.
Okay.
So there was a lot of mixing. And remember, at that time, it was harder for women. So if the women and children died off, the male lineage would carry on when the men, being a little bit more physically stronger for dangerous journeys, they would be able to
So
make
they'll
it to
go
the
get a
end.
wife when they get to the land, and they wife and children die in the way. They'll go get a wife when they get to the land. But that's my thing. So some people, that's my thing. So some people, if they, let's say, the tribes are scattered abroad, the 10 tribes, that means there's some men that went and traveled and went certain places that they were Israel, and they made babies, and they didn't fit the prophecies about slavery, but they're Israel. Is that not, that's true, or that don't make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. As a matter of fact, there's a man in Britain right now, the UK. I forgot their names, but they did a story about this white man having E1B1A bloodline. A white man. He had curly hair and he had red hair. It was curly, and you couldn't tell him, tell the difference between him and any other white person besides them having, he having some curly hair. But his family was segregated amongst his community in the UK.
How did they know to segregate them? Just because of red hair?
They segregated him for whatever reason. They segregated him in that community because they said that he was a descendant of a Negro.
Yolanda, do me a favor, Yolanda. Do me a favor, Yolanda. Let Second Exodus. I thought you were just talking to him. He said he can't get inside. He can't comment or something he's saying over here. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, bro.
Yes. So this man, he wanted to find his ancestor, and a few miles down the road, he meets this wealthy man who allows him to come inside his home, and he says, "This is your ancestor." And it was a small black boy.
I'm sorry, Second Exodus. Hold on a minute. Real Recognize Real said there's no such thing as a haplo bloodline. All right, maybe not talking to you. This is an inside. This is a comment section, or you talking to Second Exodus? Keep going.
Well, I can answer that. So the way genetics work is that they take your cell, they break open the nucleus in your cell, and the nucleus has A, C, G, and T. These are the letters that combine to form codons. All of these segments collected together are called DNA. They focus on the Y DNA, which does not change because there's a segment of your Y DNA that does not undergo the process of changing. The rest of your 22 chromosomes, they undergo changing, right? They undergo a mixture because you're getting 50% from your father, 50% from your mother. That's the changing that people see. That's what gives us our eye color, our height, our weight, things like that. But there's one segment that does not change. We call that haplogroup. I'm not, let me say this too. I'm not a geneticist, but I have a background in science, and I'm also getting a background in seminary school. So I understand it because I had several of these courses just on the basics. I can't go into detail with anything else, but I understand basically what a haplogroup is. I understand how the ribosomes and the chromosomes and the proteins code for these DNA. That has nothing to do with what I'm talking about now. It's simply they're just looking at specific mutations, and they're giving those differences a name based on those differences. If you had a string of Lego blocks and you had red, green, yellow, and then you had another string, red, green, blue, you say, "Oh, that's different. Let me give it a different name." So you give red, green, and yellow the name A. You give red, green, blue the name B, because it was a change, a mutation took place. That's how we get the names. But
So,
for the most,
all right, man,
go ahead.
this is a lot going on now. There's a lot going on. So you believe in the DNA? Because I'm saying if you put the DNA down, like the other brother said, y'all are making this. Yeah, it's like y'all making this thing gospel. If you put the DNA down, some of what the folk teaching can ride, but if not, some of this stuff can't ride. Some statement, some doctrines, how they looking at prophecy, some doctrines. Somebody else just said, I heard in Texas. You ever heard of this? Second Exodus. I heard Texas got a high. Huh?
I never heard of that, but let's say that was the case. If there was a high percentage of white males with E1B1A, that means they have a direct ancestor in their paternal line that that will go back to most people who have E1B1A. We have to understand, how did that happen? Somewhere in history should tell us, like a lot of people who carry E1B1A mixed with a lot of white people. And now you have a lot of white males with E1B1A. So you can trace that history from migration. You can trace that through history and migration. Somehow E1B1A had to come from a group of people and mix in with these group of people in Texas, if that's true. And I'm sure there's some history behind that. How did that happen? You know, was it through marriage? Was it through rape? Was it through conquest? You know, how did that happen?
Hey, Second Exodus, I got a question because I hear a lot that will say that.
I'll put a link out there. Somebody will jump on. Go ahead.
Yeah, everybody. I keep seeing this because there's been a lot of people saying this, that your DNA or whatever haplogroup, whatever you guys call it, it comes from the mother. Is that true? Because when I read in the Bible about the families when they was like, you know, Adam, the sons of Adam and stuff like that, and again it gets to naming all the sons. So my question is, in biblical times, were they really going based off the mother, or was it the sons that were that you determine who you are?
It's the sons that should determine who you are, because when God made Adam, he talks about Seth. He goes through a male lineage the entire time, and then he calls it the sons of God. So when you go through, I think it's either Matthew or Mark, I forget which book it was, but it talks about the lineage of Jesus.
Yeah, Matthew chapter 1. Matthew chapter 1.
Right. It traces the male lineage past Abraham all the way back to Noah, and then from Noah to Seth, and then from Seth to Adam, and from Adam to God himself. And so it shows dual lineage. It shows a physical lineage from the father, and it also shows people who have the faith of Christ. So those who have the faith of God are considered the sons of God. But in the flesh, with flesh and blood, it was showing that there was a male lineage being passed all the way through. Because notice in Genesis, it talks about Ham, Shem, and Japheth. It doesn't even mention the wives. It says from Ham, Shem, and Japheth, all the nations were.
That's why I had asked. That's why I had asked the question, because I keep hearing that coming up, that the lineage is based off the mother, which the mom don't carry the seed; she carries the eggs.
Exactly. She's more so of the nourisher, which is why we have to go back to Eve and say, why did the Bible say the seed of the woman will crush the head of the serpent? Because we know women don't have seed. So there's a lot of prophecies that are dropped in the Bible to let us know something that's not normal. Another example is how that seed of the woman, when you go to Mary, she was overshadowed. So Jesus himself, although he descended from David on his mother's lineage, he didn't descend from David on his father's lineage, because there wasn't a male to impregnate Mary to create him. So the Holy Spirit overshadowed him, which let us know. But the bloodline was so important that even his stepfather needed to be from Judah.
You see the screen?
Not yet.
Dr. Iran wrote that 90% of Africans are descended from Abraham. He a doctor of what? Because I don't know biology. I don't know scientists that even use the Bible with DNA. That's why I'm a little confused with some of this stuff.
This guy's
trying to squeeze DNA? Are we trying to squeeze DNA into the Bible? These folk don't even believe the Bible stories. Most of these, like Francesca and them other doctors of the Old Testament, most doctors of the Old Testament don't even believe that Abraham and Noah and them existed. I ain't gonna say most, a good bit of them.
Aaron El Hayek, because I'll have to step off real soon. Aaron El Hayek, he's an Ashkenazi Jew that went and pushed the narrative that Ashkenazis descend from Khazarians, which is in the area of Russia and Ukraine.
So he's arguing that the black people, the Israelites and the Jews aren't, and he's an Ashkenazi Jew?
He's an Ashkenazi Jew himself from Israel. Now, Africa, the word Africa is a Semitic word. That's not even Hamitic. Africa is the name of the one of the sons of Abraham and Keturah. And
I'd
that's
look into that. I'd have to look into that. I thought the Europeans named it Africa. I'll look into that though. But
yeah, absolutely. I want to give you where you can look into it. It's the North African tribe. Look where the word Africa comes from. It was given by the Greeks and the Romans about that particular tribe, and that tribe claims descent from one of Abraham and Keturah's sons.
Okay.
So even if people say, "Oh, Africa's Ham," that's not necessarily the case, because Abraham is the Hebrew, and that particular tribe in North Africa claimed descent from Abraham and Keturah. That gave the continent its entire name of Africa.
Descendants to Abraham.
Abraham and Keturah.
A tribe that came from, all right, a North
African.
Okay, all right. I'll look into that. What else you want to say about this? This Jewish. Finish telling us about this Jewish. This guy here. What's his? What is he setting forth?
He went to locate the origins of the Khazars, and he found the little area within the Ukraine where the civilization was at. And so he started publishing books based on how the Ashkenaz are direct descendants of Turkish and not the biblical Israelites.
And not the biblical Israelites. Okay, so he's like a Finkelstein. What's the other guy that wrote the third? Arthur Kessler. He's like one of those liberal Jews that's trying to that's proven that they're not a direct descendant from Old Testament people.
Yes, and Shlomo San.
Like
Shlomo San was a big one.
Yes.
So
he's supposed to live the line with them. Now,
right.
What role does DNA play with his work? This is what he do. That's what he's saying. Because if what he's saying is correct, that means that's going back to the other side of the argument. Then.
Well, it goes back to yes. As far as the camps saying that the camps, for the most part, they were just basing off of Deuteronomy 28. And that emotional feeling of, hey, if this is not happening to them, it must be us. And that there is a connection between DNA and history. So, just because they are, I would say the camps are vulgar and they don't have the gospel, doesn't mean everything they're saying is incorrect. That's like if a white person came to me and said, the problem with black people is fatherless homes. I shouldn't get upset about that. Mm-hmm. I should say, yeah, he's right. That we do have an issue of fatherless homes in our community. We need to fix that. Just because somebody's on the opposing side, usually they're going to tell you the truth in a lot of ways. And you can use that to benefit and help better yourself instead of getting emotional and upset about it.
Okay. All right. Anything you want to say in closing?
I don't have anything else to say. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
I wanted to say thanks for allowing me on. And before Second Exodus left, I wanted to thank him for the dialogue because I just really wanted to know. But shalom, Bryn.
All right, brother. Let me put this up here. Up next, you better leave me alone. Yolanda, it wasn't you. Who else? What mod put Second Exodus out? So who put Second Exodus out? Because Second Exodus harassing me in the email talking about somebody will put him out again. I don't know how he could listen, or he just can't comment, or it's a time out. Let me play this thing right here. Mute myself.
Testing can determine where in Africa our forebears were from. Among those using the test to trace their family's past, Spike Lee, Oprah Winfrey, and actor Isaiah Washington, one of the stars of Grey's Anatomy.
Brother Washington, your mitochondrial DNA is quite common among the Mende and Temne people in Sierra Leone.
Trace their ancestry back to Africa, a history totally lost to them.
If you think about young African Americans growing up thinking that the history started with slavery, I mean, how do you think that impacts their psyche? We went through slavery. We didn't start with slavery.
To Vi Higginson, the prospect of tracing even a tiny fraction of her ancestry back to Africa was enthralling. 60 Minutes sent her DNA to African Ancestry, as well as to several other genetic genealogy companies, to see what they could tell us about Vi's maternal lineage.
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat.
Kittle's company sent Vi what they call a certificate of ancestry.
Oh my God.
It says that you share maternal genetic ancestry with people from the Mende tribe in Sierra Leone. Do you know anything about Sierra Leone or the Mende people?
No.
Nothing.
People have been waiting a lifetime for something like this. Now, this is just a tiny bit of information now.
But they take it as huge.
Right, because it's cracking open the door that was closed for centuries.
There's a place in Africa you could say that I'm from. A tribe. I am thrilled. It puts a name, a place, a location, a people. It opens up such possibilities.
But the problem is, Sierra Leone wasn't the only answer Vi got. A company called Relative Genetics found a match to a single person in the Wobi tribe in the Ivory Coast.
Different?
Different.
Now, I got all excited about that, and this is different. Now, how could that happen?
Then a third company, Trace Genetics. Your particular sequence matches sequences reported among multiple Mendanka individuals in Senegal.
Did y'all hear about the people that used the cat DNA?
And Family Tree DNA, the company that linked Vi with Marion in the first place, came up with a whole list of matches. This goes on and on.
My goodness.
So what do we know about Vi's ancestry? The DNA does indicate that she has distant relatives in the Mende tribe, but she also has relatives in all those other tribes. So no one can say for sure where Vi's maternal ancestor actually came from. When I handed Vi the certificate, she got extremely emotional about it. She wept, and it meant so very much.
People want to believe.
They want to believe they've gotten an answer.
And it's not fair of us to let them believe that we're giving them certain answers, because scientifically, we just can't.
Hank Greeley is concerned that the science isn't really there yet for you to be giving them the name of a tribe.
I think for most companies, I would be concerned too.
But what about your own company?
We have
He
the
didn't
largest,
exclude you. He included you.
but we have the largest set of sequences from Africa. And so with that, we're able to provide some level of probability in terms of frequency.
But he would say that even though you have the largest database, it's still small on the scope of things.
As I said, I share those concerns
about yourself.
Our DNA.
And that's the rub. This business of genetic genealogy is fraught with limitations. For one thing, it can only provide information about a tiny fraction of our ancestry. Because we get half our DNA from our mothers and half from our fathers, almost all of our DNA gets shuffled and remixed every generation, making it impossible to trace what comes from whom. There are just 2 bits of DNA that remain pure. the Y chromosome, which passes directly from father to son, and something called mitochondrial DNA, which passes unchanged from mother to child. Hank Greeley, a law professor at Stanford University, has studied this new field. He worries that people don't realize just how many ancestors they actually have.
8 generations ago, both you and I had 256 great-great-great-great-great-great-grandparents.
Wait, you're saying that if you go back 8 generations, we have 256 great-great-great-grandparents?
Yes, it doubles every generation. So you've got 2 parents, you have 4 grandparents, you have 8 great-grandparents, 16 great-great-grandparents, and it adds up fast. It adds up so fast, in fact, that if you go back 20 generations, you've got over 1 million grandparents.
1,048,576 to be exact. And in each generation, DNA testing can provide information about only 2 of them.
So you could be Peruvian on your mother's 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 side, Japanese on your father's 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 side, Swedish on everything else.
And you'll never know.
And you'll never know the Swedish from the Y chromosome or the mitochondrial DNA.
Now, you've looked at several of these companies that are doing these tests.
Yes.
Do you think that they explain what you just explained to us?
No, I don't think any of them does as good a job of pointing out the limitations. But, you know, businesses often don't go around telling you how weak their product is.
We don't oversell. I mean, we just say, look, we provide a service. If you're interested in exploring a tiny bit of your DNA and trace its ancestry, we can do that.
When you say it's a tiny little amount,
it's less than 0.1%.
And that's pretty teeny.
Yeah, but for people who know nothing about any of them, I think it's very important.
All right, sorry. Y'all see I'm all over the place. I'm trying to get this other one set up, and I'm gonna just play this in we going on that. Fair use all this.
Testing to help people learn more about their biological traits have boomed. African Americans are increasingly using these tests to explore their genealogy and answer questions about their family histories lost during the transatlantic slave trade. Alondra Nelson, Dean of Social Science and Professor of Sociology at Columbia University, looks at the intersection of DNA and history in her book, The Social Life of DNA, Race, Reparations, and Reconciliation After the Genome. NewsHour Weekend's Hari Srinivasan recently spoke with Nelson.
First of all, why are people doing it? Is it for a story about themselves?
Those things are related, identities and stories, you know, and I think that people want identities that
Wait a minute. I hope this ain't that. Somebody just posted in this thing. Israel would never wax pale. That means they'll never become. They were dark skinned and they'll never become light skinned. That's how you. Because I know some people. I've heard people interpret it. Scripture like that. They would never become light skinned because they were dark skinned people. You're not saying that, are you? Israel will never wax pale. You're not saying that, are you?
Part of that story has been lost. And so what the attempt to use genetic ancestry testing to do to find a nation state, an ethnic group, information that you didn't have access to before we had new technologies that helped us to make some best guesses about where people who are of African descent in the US might be from, then allow you to complete a story. So the identity piece and the story piece are actually very much connected.
There's also a notion of ownership.
Yes.
Because for a second, this is that I am opting into it,
yes,
and I own this,
yes,
and I will take this piece of information, yes, that I know. and I have this to myself.
That's the critical piece, because we know for communities of color that genetics has not always been a rosy space of research, and that there have been historical tragedies in the past that would lead particularly African Americans to be suspicious of genetic testing. And so the ability to opt in, the ability to now in the 21st century use genetics to do something powerful, to tell a
So
powerful
that's
story
what
about
you
your
think that
identity and your
scripture
life,
means.
and to choose how you want to take that story
Unbelievable.
up. So sometimes people get information that they find useful or interesting, and sometimes they don't. But because you have opted in as a consumer, you get to choose, you get to adjudicate whether or not you think that information is useful for your story.
How does this change our sense of community on who I identify with? Because this moment I might be African American or Indian American, but if I really go back through my genetic roots, wait a minute, I'm from this country also?
We use African American synonymously with things like Irish American or Scottish American, but those are countries. And
Africa's a continent.
Africa's a continent, and there's 54 countries on the continent of Africa. And so to be able to say I'm Ghanaian American, I'm Nigerian American, is actually a significant difference. And that ethnic story, being a hyphenated American, is really part of the American story. It's how politics happen. It's how we do forms of social and community organizing. So there adds a level of specificity to for African Americans that might not have been there before.
Regardless of which community is deciding to do this for themselves, one of the things that always concerns me is where does that information reside? Yeah. After they do the test, after they get my genetic cheek swab, and after that lab figures out what it is about my story to tell me, they still have a copy of my DNA sitting in a lab somewhere. And I probably pressed I agree without reading the fine print.
Different companies do different things. So we now know that 23andMe has, committed to doing pharmaceutical research and aggregating their data for, potentially drug patents and these sorts of things. So, in their fine print, it tells you that. Companies like African Ancestry, which is the one I spent a lot of time writing about, says that they throw out the sample, but, there's a way in which data lives forever. So even if you throw out the actual tissue, the saliva, the data can still inform, and all of the companies, I think, if they're smart, are using the data that comes in from customers to make their databases more robust. So you can get more robust findings if you have more expansive databases. It's on a company-to-company basis that we know what happens to the DNA, but one can suspect that it's being kept around, similar to when one goes to the hospital and has to give, it's having an operation or has to give a tissue sample, it's around.
All right. The book is called The Social Life of DNA, Race, Reparations, and Reconciliation After the Genome. Alondra Nelson, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.